Welcome, everyone. Or maybe just one person so far. Hopefully, we can get at least a few people in here. I know it's less, like TikTok is less active right now than it is late at night, I think, but maybe there will be enough um, people. We'll see. All we need is, enough people to have a little bit of an interesting conversation, that's all. If anybody wants to press like and share with friends so we can get a few more viewers here, I would appreciate that. Good morning. I can't read the username there. Uleaf? Is that your name? Well, in any case, good morning. Alippy. Alippy? Okay. Well, nice to meet you. I think I've seen you interact on some of my content before. Welcome. I appreciate everybody joining. If anybody has any questions, how we know the Earth is a globe, we can talk about that. Or if anybody just wants to chat about, like, interactions with flat earthers or, like, things they're learning on science or whatever, I'm flexible. We can chat about whatever. Olympi says, I try to give you advice with multiple guests in lives. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few people I think say like that I should have um, multiple people in because it becomes more interesting. And I certainly have that point of view. And I had a few people last night, but I have probably undiagnosed autism, and so like to me, my brain just gets really anxious, and I can't keep up with what's going on and keep like maintain control of the situation if I don't like limit the amount of stimulation on my brain. Lippy's saying, I can join if you want, would give you a boost. I mean, you're certainly welcome. There's, you know, nobody else requesting right now. Prometheus says, hey, Prometheus is not welcome to join. I'm sorry, you are too much of a troll. Good evening, Bob the Science Guy. It's always nice to see you here. All right, Lippy says he's going to eat and then join. I got somebody called Please and Thank You requesting. All right.
Hello,
How's it?
how are you? Oh, okay. Good, good, good. Question, I'm having a hard time seeing right now. What does your title say up here? How
How we know Earth is a globe Q&A. So the reason I just, phrased it that way is in case somebody, may agree that the Earth is a globe, but they, still have questions that they want to learn about, or I just, wanted to leave it open-ended.
um right, and I was listening to you a little bit before. Um do you obsess over these things or no?
Obsessed?
Yeah.
What do you
With
mean?
the I mean with flat earthers and things like that. Why give it I mean, it seems like you're an intelligent guy
Well, thank
and
you.
it doesn't there's no validity to flat earth theory. I'm not even sure how it started. Um, well, I mean, many years
It
ago, I
started in
think.
1849 with Samuel Robotham, I think. That's what I've read.
Okay,
Um,
and because I'm not as curious as you, can you tell me what you know about it? I'm not going to go read about it because I find things that are waste of my time don't deserve
yeah,
any
I
more of
mean,
my time.
yeah, so like Well, it sounds like there's like kind of multiple questions kind of running at the same time here. So let me address first one of my core motives for getting into this is, well, of course, first, I love science. So to me, it's just like candy to my brain to talk about this stuff.
Right.
Um, Even if it's a conversation with somebody who's really not seeming to learn, a
Right.
lot of people find that frustrating. I actually find it invigorating. I don't know why. That's just how I am, I guess. Um, so I just love science and I love sharing what I know about science. So that's one motive. Another motive is that originally when I first got into this, uh, one of my close friends, his dad turned flat Earth. And
Huh.
so there was a huge like blow up in their family about it and that things were getting ugly. And I was just kind of stepping in to say, hey, wait, guys, let me help, and I was trying to help make peace by treating the dad with dignity, and saying, look, I'm not going to call you stupid. I'm not going to call you names. I know, that you don't trust people who say they understand the science, and that's understandable. I respect that choice. But for whatever, for whatever you take my word as worth, let me tell you what I know. So that's kind of the way I approached it with this kind of peacemaking um, angle on things. And so I try to maintain that here. It's difficult with, some of the trolls,
Right.
like Prometheus here in the chat. He's one of the biggest trolls in all my comments and stuff. But as long as I can, filter through those people and get to the people who are more genuine, more open, more willing to listen and follow these rules, then we start to have a good conversation. Even if I don't convert anyone, at least we can have that conversation. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So
I
when you get into these conversations with people, um, a lot of the times I harken back to the Watergate days and all the president's men. What would be the angle for the world to, for people to say the Earth is round and try to trick flat earthers? To, what would the point be? What would
well,
the
from what
Go ahead. Sorry.
I've asked that question, and I've seen others ask that question, and the answer that seems to be most common among flat earthers is that, oh, they're trying to suppress knowledge of God because they're saying it that God didn't
Mhm.
create the world. And like, yeah, there are people who are saying that, but that's not like. And so I always push back with like, okay, the majority of people on the planet are both globers and theists of some kind,
Right.
and the Bible does not say the earth is flat. I will I will argue that with anyone.
Right.
If anybody believes that the Bible says the earth is flat, please request to join and we can talk about it because that is not true. And so like, it's a completely nonsensical answer to your question, but that is the answer they give typically,
Right.
from what I understand.
So suppression of religion, basically.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I'm not sure what else to say about that.
Yeah, I know. I know. Gosh. Well, you have your work cut out for you, my man. The
Thanks.
the the reason why you have because of the angle you take, because you're trying to do it peacefully, whereas
Yeah.
it's more and more. I don't, not to turn it political, but someone has given people with a lack of knowledge power and a voice, and they
I think I
practice.
know which someone you mean.
Yeah, and
I think I
right,
know.
right. Um, and it's been made okay to
Yeah.
be um uninquisitive, and just your opinion is fact, and let's let's go rage on that. And it's just been,
Yeah.
I would really what I would like to peacefully try to do, and maybe I'll do that, maybe I'll do this. I will try to say to people in a kind way, Uh, let's think about before 2016. Did you think that you were not very bright and shouldn't have an opinion on things? Let's go back in time. Let's go back in
Of
time.
course, I unfortunately I think things are just a shade more complicated than what you're portraying because, obviously things in 2016 happened for a reason. And I think there was sort of a groundswell of these types of thought processes and mindsets that
It got
allowed 2016 to happen.
well. It got
So,
too close. Yes, there was
yeah.
a groundswell, but
So I've heard
he
of
he
flat
didn't
Earth
win the
theory
election.
like from before 2016. It was starting
Right.
to gain traction on social media
Hmm.
earlier than that, from what I understand.
You're
I
right. It
didn't
was
hear
the
about it
perfect
until
storm.
2017, but yeah.
Where are you from?
Yeah, Bob the Science Guy says they found each other on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you from now?
Me,
Yes.
I'm originally from Ohio. I've moved to a different state now. But is that what you were
Yeah.
asking?
Yep. 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 Just curious. Yep. And
I
you
have a few other requests right now. Sweet Uncle Rory, are you a flat earther? Um, if so, I can kind of look into switching guests at some point. But
you could just bring them up. No. Oh, you don't like too much stimulation.
yeah, yeah, I just, yeah.
You got it.
If that's okay.
Yeah, you got it. You could shut me down.
I appreciate your input so far,
All right.
for sure.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. All right. Sweet Uncle Rory. I don't know why I want to say that with like a southern accent.
Yes, yes. Good evening, Peter. It's Rory.
Good
You can
evening.
just call me Rory. Feel comfortable to just call me Rory. I'm checking in this evening from. This evening I'm in Shropshire, which is located in Britain on the border of Wales.
All right, so southern accent was completely wrong then. Good to know.
Oh, Peter. I was a flat earther for a while after I had gone to the seminary. I had studied in the seminary for a while, and I studied about the vastness and intricacy of our universe and the precise rotation of the planets and the balance of nature on Earth. And I could go on and on. The complexity of the human body, the beauty of life itself, and every element, Peter, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but every element seems perfectly calibrated, giving way to the idea of a meticulous designer. And who better to be that designer than God, the one
Amen.
worshipped and verified by countless generations of believers?
Even with Big Bang cosmogony, there's a concept called the finely tuned universe, and like it almost doesn't seem to matter what model you propose once you start becoming disciplined in defining that model. You start to find that things have to be finely tuned in some way. And so there are arguments for intelligent design and the hand of a creator, and I think that glorifies God.
Of course it does, Peter. It's Jesus who, he is the one who, at least in my understanding, he serves as a bridge between humanity and the divine. And it was,
Yeah.
and scientists will disagree with this, but they have ulterior motives, most likely. I think it's Jesus
Well,
whose
some
life.
scientists are Christians.
Well, look, I before I went to the seminary, I had studied at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, where I'd actually received a master's degree in biomedical engineering with a focus in data science. But it wasn't until I went to St. Joseph's Seminary in New York where I realized that it was Jesus who gave his life, and he extended an invitation to all of us. And what
There's
did he
somebody
give
saying,
us?
can we leave religion out of this? I actually, I don't know how I feel about that question. Part of me says, I relate to that question. Part of me says, it's important. But like the bottom line for me is that for a lot of flat earthers, religion is extremely crucial to this conversation. So if we want to actually engage with our opponents on the topic, then we have
Yes,
to acknowledge that.
we don't need to listen to those people. I had actually, when I had, when I was in the seminary, I had taken science classes, and they were religious science classes, and I had after that I had taken a teaching. I've always been passionate about teaching and biology, and I had for a while. I had gotten went to a school called Northern Mississippi Valley Tech Teachers College. It's it's located near Gulfport, and I had I wanted to become a high school teacher, and my first.
So Rory, I'm so sorry. I just I think there's a few other guests kind of queuing up now, and I'm just wondering if you can
I'll wrap it up. I'll
kind
wrap
of
it up. Yeah, I'll wrap it up, Peter.
yeah.
I'll wrap it up, Peter. I was
No disrespect. I'd
no,
love to
none
hear
taken,
some of that
none
some other
taken, my
time.
friend. My first job was at Hanover Valley West, and I tell you, the whole evolution thing was the curriculum there. I had moral and a religious conflict with the evolution. I remember that was always chapter 18. It was during the 11th week of each semester, and I remember. Look, I honor the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve, but the nice thing was, after I attained tenure in the fifth year, and I would teach all the things. I Up until then, the first few years I complied. I taught topics like the fossil record and gene mutation and
Have you
DNA.
ever heard of young Earth creationism?
Of course, I have.
I'm a young Earth
Of
creationist.
course,
I
so
don't
am
believe
I.
in Darwinism.
So am I, and I didn't believe any of these silly things in the
So
fossil record, right?
so
DNA.
are you a flat earther though?
I was for a while, but I was teaching these things in school, but I always internally felt I was disseminating false information. But the interesting, Peter, was in my fifth year at Hanover Valley West, I had I had attained tenure, so that meant I could teach whatever I want. And I made a pivotal decision. Then I decided to veer away from teaching evolution, and they couldn't fire me, right? Because I would use vivid examples to illustrate my point. Like, there are many theories, right? There were.
So are you a flat earther now?
I'm not. I am not. But I
Okay.
was. But once I entered the seminary and I learned about the precise rotation of the planets, I couldn't see it any other way.
Yeah.
But once I got tenure, I would highlight the gaps in the fossil record, and I
Right.
and I would
Yes.
argue how the evolution wasn't true, and I think I would bring attention to the absence of the empirical evidence for evolution, right? And I think we can all agree with that. And because has anyone ever seen one species transform into another? I had actually taken a class. I had actually taken the class to a class trip to the zoo, just with the idea to show that there were actually monkeys at the zoo. I remember, I remember this. It's true. I took them there.
I'm so sorry, Rory. I like what you're saying and I like what you're sharing. It's just I guess it sounds like you keep kind of veering into telling your life story, and it is interesting. I don't necessarily
No,
want
I
to
get
turn
that.
this into an
I don't
echo
either.
chamber because it
So
sounds like you and I agree on like not only the shape of the earth but also Darwinism, and like most of my viewers probably would disagree with either one or the other, and so we want to
well,
keep their attention. Then
I don't think we should placate to their feelings, my friend. Are we? We're not feelings
no,
police.
but my whole point in being live on TikTok right now is to have some kind of friendly conversation with someone who either wants to learn or wants to
Exactly.
friendly debate. And so
Well,
if we agree on everything, then that's
yeah,
wonderful.
well,
But
I think my students agreed with me too. The ones after the 50th year, I think the response from the students was overwhelming, and many would express gratitude that I wasn't teaching topics like DNA anymore. And I think many of my students went on to
well, wait a
success.
minute. Do you disagree that DNA is a thing?
I look. I think that I
Maybe we
think
have found something we disagree on.
I think there's a code for Jesus in DNA. It's been proven in a lab. It was proven in
Are you talking about
1960. The God
Are you
code.
talking about laminar or like laminate,
Yes.
whatever it
Now,
is?
it was
Okay,
proven
I've
in
heard of that.
1968. It was proven by Dr. Louis Leakey. He was. It's true. It's true. It
You
was.
know, I saw that and I sort of accepted it at first because, of course, I'm a Christian and a young Earth creationist, and so it was like, oh yeah, there's a picture of a cross in our DNA, like that's cool.
True.
But at the same time, I can see a skeptical mindset toward it. Like, okay, it's a very simple geometrical shape. There's thousands and thousands of molecules involved in molecular biology. Not, what are the odds that by chance you're going to find one? And the other thing is historically a cross symbol is was not, you know, even associated with Christianity until centuries after the life of Christ. So, I
Exactly.
mean,
Exactly. It wasn't a symbol until after Jesus roamed this earth. Now what? I think.
well, no, I'm saying even after Jesus, died, rose from the dead, and ascended to heaven, and his followers were here on earth establishing the church, for centuries after that, they were not using the cross symbol for their beliefs. For one thing, because it was illegal at first, and so their symbology was more covert. And for another thing, because like it's not an obvious choice to make. A cross was initially and at that time it was still actively being used as a torture device, an execution device. And so it was like, why would we use this as a symbol for our victorious faith? So the first symbols Christians used were, the She-Ro Greek letters for Christ, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
um, I think it was once Constantine like made Christianity legal that they started using the cross. But even then, they wouldn't make, crucifixes of, Jesus actually
Exactly.
still hanging on the cross or whatever. So
Yes.
there's just complications there that make it not super obvious to me that God intended that molecule in our DNA as some kind of proof.
Hmm. I think it's
Like,
like having. I think it's like having two maps to reach a destination. One tested and regularly updated based on new information, and the other ancient and revered, but not practically verified. And I think choosing the right one is subjective and can lead to divergent paths. Now, what am I saying? Well, look, I think the attention to the absence of empirical evidence for one species transforming into another labels these claims as unfounded, and that's what I taught. That's what I taught for 14 years, and
yeah,
I think the children
laminin, that's the word. Thank you.
exactly,
Somebody in the comments said it.
exactly,
I was saying it wrong. Um,
exactly.
So there's somebody requesting right now, Mark. He's been very, very patient. Mark, are you a
Oh,
flat
bring him up.
earther?
Bring him up. Let's hear him. Come on up, Mark.
I try to keep it just one guest at a time, just for my own sake.
Let's make an
It's my
exception.
personal
This let's
preference.
let's make an exception this one time because I like to give a piece of my mind to Mark.
I don't know. I mean, I.
How do you feel about that, Mark? Type one in the. Let's ask the viewers. Viewers, if you'd like another person to come up here in addition to
Well,
me,
I
please type
mean,
one in the comments.
with all due respect, it's my live, it's my choice. So, uh, all right. I appreciate everything you've shared, Rory. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a good day.
Thank you for that comment, Deborah. Let him stay. Do you see that, Peter? You see that comment from Deborah right there? Let him stay. Now, Deborah, let's think.
Guys,
Let's
please
think
don't
about
make
it.
this into a
Please, let's think about this before. Well, let's not act so hastily. Let's just think about what Deborah is saying here. I mean,
Look, I
we're
like you, Rory. I appreciate your views and the way you've shared everything. This is not anything personal, I promise.
so
So, is
you
there
don't
anything
want
else you'd like to share before I invite Mark up and
So let me just get this
instead?
right. You don't want to speak openly about experiences or decisions or consequences or lessons that we all need to live. I'm just trying to
Where are you
impart
getting
on.
that? This is literally, I promise you, this is literally about me limiting the amount of sensory input in my brain. This is a personal preference of mine because of the way
Mm.
my brain works, okay? This is not personal to you. It's not about the situation. It's
So you're
just
what
my
you're.
preference.
I can't believe you just said that. So what you're saying is that you think that imparting education isn't about teaching facts or beliefs.
That's not what I said. Look, I appreciate your views and what you've shared. I'm gonna disconnect you just to invite Mark up, and you know, I don't want this to be any kind of
I think
um
we're ending on a bad note here. I think we're ending on a bad note here. I think we should regroup and just let's clean the slate and
we
start over.
didn't have to end on a bad note. We really
Let's
didn't. I'm
clean.
sorry. This is not
I think the transformation of this conversation.
all right. That's really unfortunate. He seemed like a nice guy. I'm sorry, Rory. All right, Mark. Thank you
Wow.
for your
You
patience.
know, I'm so glad that you are the kind of person you are. You have patience and yet understand. You're good. You're good. And you're factual. And I've been watching you for weeks. But understand this. I'm not knocking the one, but people like before me, there's a whole bunch of them out here that are, and I don't want to use the word attack, but that follow people like you and others that speak the truth. And they're good. They're so good to where your numbers was 160, 154 when he came on. And I watched your numbers drop because of him, because he went around the bush. I'm 60 years old, okay? He didn't go to no bottom line. I listened to the entire thing, how they do that. And they kept doing you like a fish hook. He got you back in and back in. It kept going and on and got you distracted from what you were saying. You was making some good points before he came on. So remember this. Whenever the truth is being spoken, there's always interruption, some form of interruption in the line of communication. And that was one of them right there.
I just
It
don't even
happens a lot
understand
on.
why he made a thing about it. Like we were agreeing on almost everything, and it was just like it was literally just my preference to have it one on one. That was it. And he made an issue about that for some reason. I don't understand. I
Right,
really
right.
don't.
Like, he was good. He was good, but I won't be long. I'll be real quick and to the point about a lot of things, and I'll get on out of here and sit back and listen like I've been doing before for days and weeks and watching you on other streams too, speaking, okay? And don't let the other guys over talk you in those other streams. I watched you because they know you know too much. Okay?
Well, thank you.
You know more than them. You know more than them. And you're very, no, really, it is. So let me go straight to the point here. Okay. Um, Off the back, I have to tell you, Dayton, Ohio's in the house here, right? Patterson Air Force Base, right here.
Oh, nice.
I died 3 times and was in a coma and was less than 1 minute away from being put in a body bag. I was raised in the church and believed in such and such until I died. Okay, so let me just put it like that, and I want to talk about what you're referring to. I died. So if you died, you can speak with me about other things of what happens after you die, which I've seen, because you know what a caterpillar is. And that caterpillar say, "Hold on for a second, Peter. Let me go to the bathroom real quick and make this cocoon. I'll be right back." And he comes back after he made that cocoon, and it's the same caterpillar, but he's a butterfly. You understand my point? It's the same being. He's just in another shell.
So you're
Same way
saying the
with you.
near-death experience transformed
Oh
you?
yeah. Oh my God. I could go deep, 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 deep with you about a lot. Oh my goodness, you would not believe. Opened my eyes to a lot of things because I was inundated with the Santa Claus stories, and I found the truth, and I know the truth, but yet let me speak about the Earth situation.
Just as
The
a
Earth.
side note, not to distract from what you're saying, Mark, I want to listen to you, but just as a side note, any viewers in my chat right now who've watched the OA makes me think of it, of course. Um, sorry, that's all.
It's okay.
Continue.
And the picture you're looking at of me, that is me on the left hand side. That's me in the famous Tuvix episode. That's me on the left hand side, okay?
Oh, maybe I should make you bigger so I can see it better. Let's see.
That's me right there talking on the left hand side, not the alien, but the other guy.
Is that Star Trek Next Generation?
Uh, Voyager. I used to work on Next Generation,
Voyager.
and then I
Okay.
went to Voyager.
Okay, cool.
So I just had to get some facts so you understand. I'm not talking out the side of my neck of the things I'm speaking of. Now, when it comes to Earth, our own people, and I'm gonna call them they, the GOV word. I'm gonna call them they. They make us wonder, and what I say is that they prevent us from going further into the Antarctica, and they prevent us. If you look at your flight lines of the commercial flights, they prevent them from flying over certain parts of the ocean. If you're at the bottom of Brazil, you cannot, or sorry, not Brazil, South America. If you're at the bottom of South America, you can't fly straight over to South Africa. You have to go all the way up and then
I
cross.
think I've heard people claim otherwise. Like it's not a very common flight because, most of the population of the world is in the northern hemisphere, but I've seen people comment under my videos saying that they personally have taken the flight or that that they've verified that it's a thing,
Oh, really? See,
like a
tell me.
flight
See,
from.
this is new to me. Tell me. I see. From what I'm told, you can't fly that way. But if you're saying that's allowable, then okay, fine. I mean, I would love to hear that. I didn't never know that.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, I haven't verified it myself, so I'm giving you this information like secondhand or whatever. Take that for what you will. But I'm sure there's people in the comments who might be able to, give a better word on it, or like you can probably find out yourself if you if you look into it or whatever. But
Right. Oh, I will. So regarding the Earth, I watched this person, all nature something. I can't think of the name, but anyway, he broadcast from New Zealand. He shows the sun rises, and I watch the sun rises for a certain reason, because the sun rises and the sunsets is showing you something else that's here, but I won't touch on that right now. You can see that red glow in the sky. You notice that, and your weather's changing. But anyway, um, I watched the guy at 3 o'clock, and he's showing a sunrise in New Zealand, and it's so it's positive adjective words to describe it. It's so phenomenal to watch someone in another part on the opposite side of where I'm at, showing the sun rising, and then I'm watching the sun, the same sun that's what right above me. It's 3 o'clock my time here in Ohio when it happens, but still the fact that it's happening, and it really it 99% still saying of what I believe at one time it was 100%, and then it dwindled down to 98% and fluctuates back and forth from 98 to 99%. That I do believe that it's round, maybe not all the way around, but like a pear or whatever, but not flat. The reason why I say it's not flat, because
yeah.
if it was flat all this time, I don't think that we would have flipped by now. You know.
Well, whatever else you believe, I think that puts you head and shoulders above flat earthers as far as like deductive reasoning goes, like Bob the Science Guy likes to say, because uh, yeah, sunset is like one of the biggest proofs of the globe, and that's what's behind me right now. I took this sunset time lapse myself, and it shows the sun go below eye level. As far as I know, the very first person in history to make any kind of serious persistent claim, otherwise, that the sun stays above eye level, was Samuel Rowbotham in 1849. No other ancient flat Earth model, as far as I know, made that specific claim about the sun. And the reason is because it's complete nonsense. We obviously see that the sun goes below eye level. It's just so obvious.
True.
That's why we have the word, that the sun goes down or that the sun comes up. It goes up and down. We know this. We've known this since the dawn of time. It's
Sunrise, sunset. That's what you
yeah,
were trying to say.
yeah. It's just so obvious. I mean, it's hard to get more obvious than that. But
Wow.
somehow they have to rationalize it away. Like they say, "Oh, it's linear perspective," and then when you push and say, "Well, the linear perspective doesn't look like this," then they say, "Oh, well, then it's an optical illusion," and it's like, "Well, make up your mind." And not only that, but there is literally no optical illusion that can possibly produce what we observe.
True.
It's
You're right.
impossible.
I agree. I agree.
So,
1,000%. You're right.
so yeah. But it sounds like we agree. Got any people in the chat here who want to join at some point and either learn more or debate in a friendly way about whether the Earth is flat? That's what I'm kind of trying to get is somebody I can maybe help
Right.
help learn.
Everything's in your favor. I just want to jump in real quick and just to say this to you because you're doing a great job, and
Thank you.
I do listen to to what the topics from the others or flat earthers are talking about on their sites, on their pages. I listen to what they're saying when they're broadcasting, but yet it's nothing really tangible for me to grasp on because
Yeah.
it's and especially when they throw since I died, and I have to stay and I stand firm on this. Since I died and I saw the truth and I know the truth and I get visitation from the truth, I don't believe the incorporation of that book, that fairy tale book, to be incorporated into their conversations to try to put control of
Are you
your
talking about the
thinking.
Bible?
Well, that's what you call it. But yet, I was raised with that, and I found out the
All
truth.
right. Well,
I
that
found
would be something we disagree on. I believe the Bible is the Word of God, and I
it
live my
could
life
be,
by the
but
Bible,
it,
or I
it
try.
could be, but what I've experienced is it was not that. I saw the A word. Okay, three of them. They always travel in three. Why?
Well,
The
is there anything else
Grays.
you'd like to share before I invite up Iron Horse? That's the next
Okay,
guest.
it was the Grays. I'm gonna just tell you that, and I'm gonna end it like that. And we could talk another time. I always watch you all the time, so you're good. I'll come up another day or whatever.
Thank you. I appreciate what you've shared. I would have you again gladly some other time. Have a good day, Mark. All right, Iron Horse. Let's see. I'm gonna switch this back unless somebody needs it.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Do you have a cat? I just heard a meow. That sounds really cute.
Yeah, he just he just meowed at me.
Is it a
Yeah, no,
kitten?
I'm,
It
I'm
sounded
fairly
really
new to
young.
your channel. Hey? Oh yeah, he's still maybe 5, 6 months. Yeah, he's big. But
Nice.
yeah, so I'm fairly new to your
I
channel. I'm
like
not
cats.
familiar with your stance and everything. So, so you believe the Earth is a spinning space ball hurtling through space?
If you want to put it that way, I suppose. Yes.
So that's a yes. Okay.
Yes.
And all right. So obviously you're here to, I don't know, are you here to teach me about it, or do you want me to hear about why I think it's balloon?
Yeah, or I mean, we can learn about each other's perspectives at the very least if we, you know, try to have like calm, friendly debate about it. If we disagree, um, at
Yeah, I'm down with
that's
that.
the goal here is at the very least learn about each other's points of view, even
I'm
if
down with that. Yeah, cool.
even if we don't like come to agree on anything or whatever, that's fine.
Okay.
At least
Because
that's my goal.
I spent the first probably 15 to 20 years of my life absolutely believing in the globe Earth. I was fully believed about it, grew up with it, believed in it. I was sort of making, well, not sort of making fun, but I'd make a bit of a joke to my friend on his birthday one time. I said, happy 17th trip around the sun. when they just look at me like really strange, like, what the heck? And I go, well, once you're born on the earth, every time you've gone around the sun, that's when you're 1 year old. So they go, oh, yeah, wow, I never thought of it like that. So I was fully into it. I understand everything about the heliocentric model, how it works, the whole rest of it. And I eventually came to a conclusion after many years investigation that it is actually stationary. It's of water, and that the celestials we see are actually going around above us, but over such a large distance because the equator is so massive. It takes 24 hours for the sun to go around the equator once at a time. That makes far more sense than anything in the heliocentric model. And there's multiple things I could use to debunk the heliocentric model.
Would you agree that the stars in the northern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise during the night?
They appear to with time-lapse photography, yeah.
And do you agree that they rotate that they rotate clockwise in the southern hemisphere?
I think what we're seeing is an illusion. Like, I think they're all spinning the same direction. They go from east to west, obviously, but I think that the way we view the the night sky outside of the equator is probably a lot more like a kaleidoscope, for want of a better term. What you see in the middle is exactly what everybody sees in the middle. But on the outside, you've got like about 6 or 8 different facets, all showing the identical thing. And because it's like a kaleidoscope, it shows a mirror image. So
So why don't we see boundaries of these facets?
because that's where the night is divided by day. So it's invisible to us. It just fades through
But
the
you see
twilight.
almost a 360 degree. I actually made a video just recently showing that to a flat earther.
360-degree view. What do you mean by that?
Almost 360. So like it's pretty once you can visualize it, it's pretty simple, even though I grant it's counterintuitive. But if you take like, a rotation of the earth and take any point on that where you are, and like suppose that you have a horizon, right? That horizon spans a width of 180 degrees in your sky, right? From like east to west, you can see 180 degrees of the sky, half the sky, right?
Well,
Do
again,
you see?
your horizon is only a few miles away, though, either side of you. How you could see 180 degrees of the sky through a 3-mile horizon, it would obscure so much. You
Miles
would
don't
have
equate to degrees. I'm saying it's 180 degrees because it's half of your celestial sphere.
Okay, so from your perspective, I can see how that would work, yeah. Because you believe you've
Well, this
traveled
would be true even on a flat
12,500
Earth,
miles.
right? Half your sky is like half of the celestial sphere is visible at any time because the horizon is at eye level. So the top half of
Yeah,
what you see
but you're
is
looking
sky, the
up.
bottom half is land.
But you were looking up and you're just watching them rotate above you from a very great height. You're not
Yeah, but
actually the
I'm
horizon.
saying it's a 180-degree view of whatever is above us. The like if you take a line from like horizontal this way and calculate the angle from there to the horizontal the other way, that's 180 degrees. So the
Sure.
sky is 180 degrees. So then
So yeah, go ahead.
during the night, you agree that not, well, at least on the globe model, okay, that the night is half of one full rotation. Well, what's half of one full rotation?
180
180
degrees.
degrees.
So that's not nearly 360.
Well, it is because
Half of
if you
360.
take if you take one horizon, in during like at let's say right at sunset, you're looking at the west horizon right after sunset, just as the stars come out. That's one direction, and then you can see immediately. You can see 180 degrees to the other, like to opposite where the sun just set, the anti-solar point. And then during
Okay.
the night, your entire view rotates 180 degrees. So if you look again at the east horizon, by that point, you're about to see the sun rise. You're almost your horizon is almost touching the sun on the other side. You've seen almost a full 360 view during one night.
But you just described 180 degrees. The other 12 hours of the day when the sun's visible, you're not going to see the other
No,
180
you're
degrees at
only
all.
It's your view is 180 degrees wide, and it also that entire 180-degree view sweeps 180 degrees around. That means
Exactly.
you add 180 degrees plus 180 degrees. It equals almost 360.
What are you adding? How are you adding anything to it?
The width of your view plus how much that view turns.
But that is your view. That is your view. How can you add to it? I'm not getting that.
Because it's got a certain width and it also
But the sun covers your sky for 12 hours of the day. That's 180 degrees. You see the stars 12 hours of the night, 180 degrees. You
you're
can't add them
forgetting that we
together.
can see more than just the zenith during the night.
Zenith,
Yeah, so
zenith of
the sun blocks out the stars for half of the for half of the day or half of the
which is
rotation,
180
whatever.
degrees. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 180 degrees, but
There's
once
only
the sun is out
360
of
degrees
view,
in a
you can
circle, bro.
see what?
There's only 360 degrees in a circle.
Yes,
You
I know.
can't
I'm
add that
saying,
together.
but there's overlap though. As soon, okay,
Overlap.
let's look, just for a second. Look, if you are watching the sky right at sunset, okay, you can see 180 degrees of the sky, but no stars, right?
Correct.
The sun goes below the horizon, the stars come out, that only takes a few minutes, right? Maybe
I don't
15,
know.
30 minutes.
Takes up to an hour. I
During
don't know.
that 15, 30 minutes, you're only your sky is going to be looking at the same part of the sky as it was just a few minutes ago,
Yeah,
but
right.
all the stars come out during that for that whole view. So there's
Okay.
overlap. There's overlap in the day sky. That's what you're not taking into account.
Okay. I'm not really quite capturing you, but I can see where you're
Okay,
coming from.
let me show you the video that I made. It's really simple. Once you can visualize it, I promise.
So do you
It's
think at the equator you can see both the pole stars?
there isn't really a southern pole star, but you can see the southern celestial pole.
Yeah, you could see where it would be if there was one though.
Yes. Yeah.
From the equator, you can see both at the same time. That sort of negates the globe because the globe has got like, you know, thousands and thousands of miles of curvature, but you can only see beyond a few miles to where your horizon is. Because the
How does that
horizon,
negate the globe? That
well,
doesn't
the
negate the
horizon, of
globe.
course, is always rising up to eye level at around 3 miles away. You'd be seeing through the entire globe. It's almost as though it would have to be flat to be able to see both pole stars from the same spot at
All
the
right, you
equator.
lost me. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But let me show you this.
All right.
All right, so this is the video I made showing the this concept. So I took a short clip of me rotating this globe, this little model globe. Now, this is the night sky marked in red, okay? And we see a full rotation. This is that the sun just rose, so no more night sky during this half rotation. But as soon as the sun sets, boom, we get night sky again. And then that night sky rotates 180 degrees around, but it's also 180 degrees wide. So let's watch it again, but with the red portion accumulating.
And how does the pole star stay fixed when you're looking at this?
Well, the pole star in this diagram would be toward the camera.
So the camera's looking up.
The camera is looking from north to south, down on the
Down
south,
on the
or
north,
it's,
it's North
yeah,
Pole,
down on the
looking
North
down on the
Pole.
North Pole.
Yes.
Down on the North Pole.
That's a
But
nice
Yeah.
where the
demonstration
green
there,
dots
Peter.
start, that's the North Pole, is it not?
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, so the North Pole or the North Star would be behind the camera in this diagram.
So you'd have to be looking up and have your camera aligned to the North Pole to keep it fixed, would you not? And yet you're looking out towards the equator.
No, you can see the rotation around the North Star as long as you have your camera pointed anywhere in the direction of north.
No, you have to have it aligned to the pole star to get
No, you do not.
the star trails. You
No, you
absolutely
do not.
do. You absolutely do.
Yeah, tell an astronomer how to take star trails. That's right. Go right ahead.
I've heard from a million okay, I don't want to exaggerate. I've heard from plenty of astronomers that say they have to use their single alignment by aligning the camera to the North Pole. That's how you can stay fixed on any singular object. So if you're going to take star
Correct.
trails
Okay, so you're
to the
confusing
North
two
with the
different
pole star
things.
in the center, you would have to keep your camera aligned to the pole star, not
You
looking
are
out 90 degrees away at
confusing
the equator.
you are confusing two concepts. The first one is polar alignment, so you only have to use one axis to track a star during the night. However, just taking a camera and pointing it on a tripod in the general direction of north, you will see the stars rotate around one point and one star, and that's the North Star. You can
And that's why
do
I'm
this.
having trouble with this because the red line is sort of indicating the equator, not the North Pole.
Now,
The camera's pointing the wrong direction.
that
This
thing's
is the horizon.
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
This,
perfectly
that's my point.
clear.
It's the horizon,
That is
which
a
is only
very
3 or 4
clear and
miles
very
away. It's not even the
geometrically
equator.
represented demonstration of what Peter's talking about. It's extraordinarily clear. So,
Yeah, but
and
the equator is
my my
6,150 miles
my
away. The
my
horizon is 3
mention.
miles away.
Okay, but
Iron
all
Horse,
right.
I'm interested to hear what Bob's saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So two things. First of all, I've just explained to you the difference between polar alignment and tracking of stars and taking a star trail just by pointing the camera towards the north, which Peter, you can do tonight if you've got clear weather.
But
Go
Peter's
ahead.
just said
We
he's
might
pointing
try,
it at the
yeah.
Go
horizon.
ahead. Okay, go
He
ahead
just
and
said he's
just take
pointing
a
it at the
picture.
horizon.
You just go ahead and take a picture somewhat somewhere in the general direction of the north. Okay. You don't have to line it up
Uh-huh.
on the North Star. Just take it so that the North Star is in the frame of your camera and just let it sit there and open for an hour. You'll see the star trails go around that North Star without you being aligned on it. You can put that North Star anywhere in the camera frame.
Yeah.
Second of all, I do want to address something that Iron Horse keeps saying, and this is something that Caleb tried to pull as well. So this idea that the horizon, quote unquote, is 3 miles away, okay, well, that's fine, and that's true for a 6 foot man. However, things that are more than 3 feet or 3 miles away from you simply don't disappear because they're at the horizon. It depends on how high they are and everything else. Things are not simply invisible because they're more than 3 miles away, which is an error in reasoning that they have.
Did you think I did say things disappear that are higher than our feet level? More than 3 miles away? I'm just saying that the horizon, if you're looking over
Multiple
water from a
times.
six
And
foot
that's
height.
what you tried. That's your argument that you used multiple times that you couldn't see it because the horizon's only 3 miles away.
Sorry,
So
I
I'm
didn't
just
realize I'd
calling you
finished
on it.
speaking. I didn't realize I'd finished speaking. I'm just saying that ordinarily speaking, the average person's horizon is 3 miles or often a lot less away. If you looked out your front door right now, you would find you can't even see 3 miles. You could probably see 300 meters on a good day. That's what most people ever see.
Yet I can
But
see clouds 40 miles away. So, I mean,
that's
I don't have
right,
any issue
because
with
they're
that. On
high.
the
Because
horizon,
they're
on
high
the
above a
horizon,
flat surface.
on the,
That's how it
no,
works, above a flat
that's
surface.
silly. The
The
flatness
higher
is silly.
something is, the further it can be seen above a flat surface. If
Okay,
it was
so
wrapping around a curve, we
Iron
wouldn't
Horse,
see
how do
it.
you explain ships disappearing from the bottom up?
There's multiple different reasons for that. First of all, you've got convergence. Like on a globe,
Nope, that's not convergence.
the water should never appear to curve up to eye level in the first place. If
This
it
is what
does, it never
convergence looks like right here. This is what convergence looks like, where
that's one
the
example of
object
it.
gets too small to see. What we are
That's one
seeing
example of it.
here is not convergence. That's something blocking the line of sight between the camera and the bottom of the
There,
ship.
because the convergence creates the point horizontal to the eye of the viewer, depending upon the
That's
viewing
not
height.
convergence.
If
I
you
think
got
he's
up
made that
higher, you
quite
would see
clear to
beyond the
you.
convergence point.
I think he's made it very clear to you that that is not convergence, and he's demonstrated why it's not convergence. So continuing to claim it isn't helping your cause there, Iron
You're
Horse.
always going to have convergence. You cannot avoid it. Everything converges up to eye level. Everything converges down to eye level.
Yes,
And when
but
you've got a very tall
listen, Iron
ship
Horse,
in the
convergence
distance,
looks like a specific thing. This is what it looks like, the thing getting too
you're
small
talking
to
about
see.
you're talking about
If
angular
it's
size diminution. That's a different thing. Angular size diminution is what
No,
also happens
this
with the
is
distance.
convergence. This is what it looks like when something converges by getting too small, converges to the vanishing point.
So how come it's
That's
still in front of the
when it's
horizon? You're showing it's still in front of the horizon in that
well,
example. You got
this is
pixels in
just a
front of the
photoshopped
horizon.
diagram. Like I'm just trying to demonstrate the concept of something being too small to see.
So
I
Photoshop
literally
through.
made the pixels bigger to make it to make it more obvious, what I'm
So
trying to
it's still in front
communicate
of the
here.
horizon. So it hasn't disappeared over the curve, is what you're trying to say.
Right, because convergence is not the same as the water blocking the line of sight to the bottom of the boat.
It
which
is.
is
If
what you
The
see on the
water
ship.
rising up to eye level in the first place creates a convergence point which you cannot see through. When something tall
the
goes
horizon
beyond
does
that,
not
the bottom
rise
will be
to eye
hidden. It does rise
no,
to eye level. What's it doing? Sinking down to foot level? Why isn't it at the bottom of the frame of
It's
the
the
at the
picture?
foot
horizon
level to
is
begin with.
It should be below
the
your
hor-
feet, not
It
at eye
is.
level.
It is.
It's not. It's at eye level. It's in the
What's the
middle of the
dip
frame.
correction? What's the dip correction for a
There is
sextant?
no dip correction. What are you
What
talking
is
about?
what is the
Don't
dip
change the
correction?
subject. We're talking about the
What
ship
is the
here and why it's
what's
been
the dip
obscured bottom
correction?
first in the
Come on, guys.
distance.
Come
And
on.
I'm
all right,
Let's have a
explaining it.
decent
Iron
let's
Horse.
have a decent conversation here.
I'm trying to, but
On
you keep trying to change the
sextants,
subject.
on
You're trying to change the
sextants,
subject.
he's just talking over
Let's
me
not
again.
talk about the sextant, man. We're
So
talking about why it's a boat
so
disappearing
on a
bottom first.
Iron
sextant,
And I
you
was
Horse.
have
trying
to
to
have
explain it, and you're not letting me speak.
a dip correction on a sextant to go from your horizontal down to the horizon. That's because the horizon is below your eye level. It's just as simple as that. It's just a basic fact. It's not open to
Are you
debate.
done? Are you done?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So because the horizon rises up to eye level, creating a convergence point, anything that is beyond that distance, which is generally about 3 miles, depending, you might be on a boat, so it's going to be 10 miles away, it's going to start disappearing bottom first because you can't see through the convergence point. It's made out of physical water. It's got
That's just
waves, it's got
completely wrong.
swirl, it's got atmospheric
So you see
obscurity,
how
you've got
so
compression, you've got
so
so many
Peter,
multiple
you see
different
how
things.
so Peter, you see how he was given corrective information. He completely ignored it and continued on with his script that the horizon rises to eye
Yeah,
level,
No
despite
yeah,
the
script
I
there,
fact
Bob.
noticed that.
there's evidence to the
You're the
contrary.
one of the script. You're the one talking about dip level with the
No, Iron Horse,
sextant.
you have one more chance to listen before I invite the next guest and kick you off. Okay, one more chance. And that's not
Fine,
anything personal. You've been mostly respectful. I appreciate that, but it's
but
just, once the
well, he's not
conversation
letting
gets
me
to a
answer the
certain.
question that I'm trying to answer for you. He's not giving me a chance. So
No,
I'll
you
listen.
you you
Fine,
s- you
listen.
claimed
I'll listen.
something that is patently nonsensical, and I'm trying to help you understand why. Okay, so
And
that's
I
that's what I'm
explained
saying.
exactly why it was.
Yeah,
Dip level.
I'm giving Iron Horse. I'm giving you one more chance to listen to why what you said is complete nonsense. Okay,
Go for it.
this is what things look like when they disappear to the vanishing point. Roughly, this is a diagram, but you will not see the water blocking your line of sight to the bottom of a boat while the top of the boat is still while you can still resolve details on the top half. That is not what linear perspective looks like, ever, under any circumstance ever. This
Okay.
is not linear perspective doing that.
Okay. Would you
This
like a
is
response?
something, this is the water blocking your line of sight to the bottom of the boat.
Yes, that's correct. And when the Greeks first came up with their little explanation for boats disappearing bottom first, their boats were 8 to 14 meters high. That boat there is probably about, I don't know, 100 meters or
Well,
80
this is
meters.
just a photoshopped diagram. This is the actual photographic evidence that I'm presenting.
Right, yeah. So that's obviously with a lot of heavy zooming. You can see how big the waves look. The waves never
Zooming
look
doesn't
like that
matter
with the naked
because
eye.
the
It does matter.
vanishing point does not prevent you from like zooming in to see something. And
But if
flat
you were
earthers will
looking,
claim this all the time that you can zoom a lens and bring it back.
if
But
you were
you
looking
can
at that
zoom
with your
all you
naked
want.
eye, if
You
you were
can
looking at that
zoom
with your
all you
naked
want.
eye, bro, you would see zero. You would see nothing. You cannot see any of that ship whatsoever with your naked eye. You have to zoom in to bring that
It
much
doesn't
of it in
matter.
the first place. It
It
does
doesn't matter.
matter.
Cameras help you see better. So what?
It really
It's
matters.
still in your line of sight. Now,
But
adding
but that
zoom
negates
to
the
it
whole
does
curvature
not
formula.
change your line of sight. Come on, please, man. Try and control yourself. Zooming
How
in does not change your line of sight. It doesn't make things that are out of your line of sight because they're below the surface of the water come back into your line of sight. It doesn't raise them up.
I didn't say it takes them out of your line of sight. Of course, they're in your line of sight, or you wouldn't see them at all. But with the naked eye, you would see absolutely nothing. That is due to massive
That's a red
magnification of the
herring
modern
fallacy. No
digital
one cares
zoom
right now
camera.
what you can or can't see with your naked eye. That's not part of the conversation. You're just throwing that out as a red herring fallacy.
But so you think the ancient Greeks had the decided that the
I
Earth is
don't
flat.
care what they did or didn't have. I'm showing you photographic evidence that your model cannot explain.
It does explain it. I just told you why. Because the convergence point with those massive waves
This
in
is not
between you,
convergence. This
it
is not
is.
convergence.
You don't
Then
understand.
how
Like,
can we still resolve details on the top half?
I think he's
what
clearly
detail?
demonstrated it's not convergence. He's given you the illustrations. He's pointed out the details, and this is what's called an occultation. It's actually being blocked by the water below it as it gets
I
further
agree.
away.
I agree. We agree with that, Bob. Thank you. You're right. It's been
All right.
obscured by the water because
Well,
the
then
water
you've just
converges
you've
up to eye
just
level.
conceded the entire argument because
No, he's going to
this is
try and
convergence.
Peter. He's going to try and make the argument that that's waves.
Well, it was. You could see them.
See,
They've
there you
converged
go.
up to eye level.
These waves are not big enough to hide that entire bottom of that boat. You got to be kidding me, man. Oh my
No,
So
goodness.
that's
you
their
think
typical argument.
what? But you think because you can't block an entire building with your finger that the building is smaller than your finger? Is that what you're trying to say now?
Well, here's the problem that you
I'm
run into with
saying
that
these waves
logic.
are not blocking that boat. Look,
Of course
they,
Yeah,
they are. They're
you
way,
can
way
see them
Peter.
closer.
going up and down, up and down, up and down in this size right here.
Exactly.
Angular size,
Exactly.
buddy. It's
Peter,
angular size.
Peter, the problem
Exactly.
that he's running into and his logical disconnect there is the fact that the camera is above the surface of the water, above the surface of the water on a flat earth, unless there was a wave that was higher than your level above the water, that wouldn't block your view of the boat.
Okay, Bob, you seem to know an awful lot about this sort of thing. So if you're looking into the distance and you've got a tall building in front of you and clouds disappear behind you, does that mean the cloud has gone below the building?
Uh, on the spherical earth, yes.
It means it's gone below the building. And what if you
Yes.
stepped around behind the building and saw the cloud was still there?
You're not implying it's being hidden by the building which is sticking up. You're implying that it's being hidden on the horizon behind the building. So yes, if
No,
the
no
clouds are going
horizon. No
below the
horizon
level,
involved, just the building. Just
okay,
normal
so if you're at,
convergence of something getting in front of something because it's
doesn't have anything to
closer.
do with convergence.
The building is closer to you, so it's going to appear bigger than the cloud in the distance.
You
And so
don't have
that's
any
what
waves
convergence
there.
does.
You
Convergence
don't have
hides
waves
things in the
there.
distance
Okay,
because the
well, you can
waves are
keep talking.
closer.
You can keep talking, but
I'm
the
trying to.
waves that you're seeing here are not coming up above the level of the camera. What's happening is the boat is going over the curve.
But the
Okay,
waves are closer to the camera.
they're
That's
It
what
not
makes
doesn't
them
going
matter.
appear
These
above.
bigger.
waves,
That
What's
would
it does
not
making
not
them
make a
matter
appear
how
difference
far
on
bigger?
a
away that.
flat Earth. As long as the waves were not above the camera on a flat Earth, you would see the entire boat.
No, you
Okay,
wouldn't. You
what
don't
wouldn't you see?
understand how do we have a convergence point called the horizon.
You've already
That's
been clearly
Iron
demonstrated
Horse.
we aren't dealing with a convergence point. So
We
stop
are
Yeah,
dealing with a
bringing it up.
you
convergence point.
abandoned that argument to say that these were waves because we demonstrated how completely nonsensical that argument was, and now you're going back to it like we didn't have that conversation. Okay,
Okay,
so
This
I'm
is
that
sorry
the
you guys don't understand. This is
this is
really
the flat
basic
Earth
stuff
reset.
about convergence. You will always have a convergence point at eye level depending upon your viewing height. And because on
yeah,
this
I'm
convergence
look,
point
I'm
there
gonna
are
let the
waves
next
as
guest up.
well, okay,
Iron Horse, is there
that's
anything
fine.
else that you'd like to share before I invite the next guest up?
Yeah, Bob is very
Don't
just
make an
wrong.
accusation. I'll kick you immediately.
I won't
Correct?
kick you.
He was just going to say correct. That's all. That's okay. I
You're
don't mind
wrong
that.
about everything, and you're both rude, not letting me finish speaking what I'm talking about, how convergence works. That's fine. I expect that from Globers.
We let you
You're all
finish
the
once or
same.
twice at least, and it was completely
Once or twice at
nonsensical.
least, and every single time you want to talk over me afterwards. You don't understand convergence, you don't understand perspective at all, and you are just denying it. That ship should be entirely hidden if it was over curvature. Entirely
Thank you
hidden.
so much for stopping by, Iron Horse.
You're welcome,
It's
Bob.
always a wonderful time speaking with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
have
sure.
a good day.
You too.
All right, thank you so much for joining, Bob. Are you still up for?
I'll do one more.
All right, undishonest. He's been pretty patient here.
Hi, Undishonored. How are you today?
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you guys hear me?
Just great.
Yes.
All right. First of all, I didn't think you guys had to kick the guy to let me up, right? You could have just added me, couldn't you?
Well, I prefer to keep it just one or two people.
Okay, I understand. Well, I have only like two simple, really questions. I want to know why everything that you can zoom into is always vertical, and it's not. You can't ever find anything like tilting towards the with the curve, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's just because of the distances involved. Like, if you were able somehow to measure with that precision, you would find that this boat was tilted away from the camera by like, you know, half of 1 degree or something. Who knows? I would have to calculate it, but how are you going to see that at this distance?
Well,
Every mile that the boat travels away from the camera, that's reinforcing the like basically the orthographic perspective on the boat.
yeah, but I meant
Um,
buildings. I meant like skyscrapers. I meant like
yeah, but it's all going to follow this exact same principle.
Yeah. In order for it to tilt 1 degree away from you, it has to be 60 nautical miles away, and you cannot visually look at a building from 60 nautical miles until it's tilting 1 degree away from you. Now you can measure the distance that bridge towers do tilt apart. So, for example, with the Bezero Narrows Bridge in New York, they tilt apart at the top about 30 millimeters more than they are at the bottom. They kind of splay out a little bit because being plumb at that distance apart means the tops of the bridge, oh, probably 1 to 2 inches further apart than the bottoms of the bridges are.
I have to look into that because I know like the atmosphere can make it like blurry or like
Plumb
deformed
has
kind
nothing
of.
to do.
Yeah.
Plumb has absolutely nothing to do with atmospherics. Those
Okay.
buildings are plumb, and they are 2 to 3 inches further apart at the top than they are at the bottom.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much, but I'll look into it some more about that. And my
Well, it's a
next
great
question.
question. It's a great question.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about it, but I have another question that kind of like need like I'm looking for answers, and nobody's really giving me an answer. You can use the same pretty much the same zoom level to focus on both the sun and the moon. Why is that?
Well, they happen to be the same angular size. Exactly why they're the same angular size is maybe more of a question of either cosmogony or worldview, depending on who you ask. Some people say it's just a marvelous coincidence. Some people say it's the hand of God, blessing us with the opportunity to see eclipses. Um, but I mean, it's the basic physical answer is they're the same angular size in the sky. So the
I'm
moon is just
curious
the
as to
right
why.
amount closer.
Yeah, but we're talking about
I'm
zoom
I'm curious as to
level
what you
to
think should happen. What do you think
what?
should happen?
What do you mean?
Well, why do you think that? Why do you think the zoom should be different?
Well, because it's one is like what millions of miles away, and one is 240,000 miles away. So
Okay, what
how can
difference
you
do you think
focus
that'll
on
make?
both the sun and the moon with the same zoom level? You don't have to adjust much.
I think that you're making a mistake as far as talking about zoom. I think you're talking about focus.
Focus, yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so and you do have to change it,
Oh,
and you do
yeah,
have
that
to
With
is
the
change it
same
different.
because
zoom
the
level,
moon.
you can focus on both the sun
It's
and the
not a
moon.
zoom,
That's what I
not a
meant.
zoom level, not a zoom level of focus, and you have to have a
Zoom has
different
the only
focus.
thing that zoom has to do with is angular size.
Yeah, it
So
just
you can
makes it
see in
bigger.
this diagram, like I have a blue object and a green object and a red object, all three lined up with perfect like coordination so that the sizes and distances make them
Peter, he
have
knows
an
what he's talking about. He's just using the wrong word. He's not talking about
okay.
zoom. He's talking about
All right.
focus.
All
So
right.
you do have a different focus setting for the moon than you do the stars, for example, or the sun, because they are significantly different distances. So you do have to focus a little bit differently for them. So if you focus on the stars and try and look at the moon, you have to
Hmm.
tweak the focus just a little bit to get that moon sharp. So if you start off with the stars being sharp and you want to look at the moon, you have to tweak the focus just a few stops to kind of bring it down a little bit so that the moon becomes sharp. So there's a slight difference. It's not much.
Really, I think we could try that experiment.
Let's do it tonight. Let's do it tonight.
I'll try it. I'll try to
What
figure something out and see if I can
what
zoom
time zone
into.
are you in?
I'm in Pacific time.
Oh, even better. 11 p.m. Eastern time.
Well,
I'll
what do you have in mind?
Well, 11 p.m. Eastern time. I will open up the observatory, and we will be looking at the moon and satellites in orbit and stars and nebula.
No, I
And
meant like
we'll
I meant like try to experiment it with
we'll
something
do
on
it
Earth.
live. No, we'll
I don't
do it
know, like
live on the moon.
I'm trying to see if I can focus on like two far objects with the same I don't know how you call it. I'm
But you
not
didn't
really.
ask about Earth. You asked about yes,
Oh, sorry about that.
Squad 51, Rampart.
I'm dishonest. You should probably give Bob a follow because he's got pretty cool
Well,
content.
what I'm saying is your original comment was the sun and the moon. Okay. Well, I can't show you the sun and the moon right now because it's daytime and I don't have the telescope set up. But tonight at 11 o'clock, I'm going to open up the observatory. We're going to take the 11-inch telescope and we will look at the stars, and then we will go straight to the moon.
Hmm.
And I'll show you that it's a little bit out of focus. And then we'll sit down and say, okay, now let's change the focus just a little bit. And you'll see the moon get sharper. But
Well,
I have to change the focus to do it.
that can also happen if they're both the same distance. But I'm trying to experiment it
No.
like with something on Earth where you can focus on both objects at a far distance,
Well, two things.
apart.
First of all, it doesn't happen if it's the same distance. If it was the same distance, it would be the same focus setting. And second of all, we
Hmm.
know that they are not at the same distance by a long shot.
Definitely,
So,
yeah.
and I've measured that. So the issue is that, I can show you that there is a slight difference in the focus, but I'm happy to do that with you. Like I said, tonight on my TikTok channel, I will be live streaming the telescope at 11 o'clock Eastern.
How many
Hmm.
So I have
orders of magnitude would that even be? That's got to be
my
like
telescope.
tens. No, no, no. I mean the difference between distance to the moon versus the stars.
Oh, dear Lord.
I mean, I guess obviously it would depend on the star,
Well,
but let's
one
say the
parsec,
closest, like,
well, one light year is 207,000 times the distance from the Earth to the sun,
Well, okay,
which is
no,
377 times or 380
oh boy.
times the
I
distance
would
from the Earth to the moon.
I would have never guessed. I'm not really that smart. I just have some questions that I can't really answer myself. That's why. But
And our
I'm
nearest
I do
dishonest.
want to
star,
I
see.
want.
our
Yeah.
nearest star is over 400, or what would be 800,000 times the distance from the Earth to the sun.
I'm dishonest. I don't want to overlook the awesome thing that you just did. You said, I'm not really very smart. And that can sound like, people might think less of you if you say that, but I want to point out that is an awesome statement. Most flat earthers are not willing to make that statement. You
Hmm.
know,
I'm not
it
even a
takes
flat earther
actually.
though.
You use the wrong word though, and that is that you said you're not that smart. Okay, that's not true. You are that smart. What the correct statement is I don't know, but you can learn it.
Oh yeah, if I don't
You
know
see
something,
that?
I'm definitely gonna say. I'm not gonna like pretend that I know
But you're
it.
capable of learning it
But I'm
because you
I'm
are
trying to
I'm
smart.
point
sure.
out,
I'm sure.
yeah, I'm trying to point out that that takes an enormous amount of
Intellectual
character.
honesty.
Yeah, and honesty for you to be able to say that. And I think we need more of that in this whole conversation, in this whole debate with flat earthers and on this subject. I just wish more people would be willing to admit when they don't know something.
I mean, why not? I
So,
mean, like, I
yeah,
think that's just normal. I guess to
I
me.
just wanted to hold you up as an example there, a positive
Okay.
example, because that
Thank you.
is awesome.
Great job, man. I agree. I
Thank you.
completely agree.
Yeah. So I was gonna also ask you something else because something else came up, but I guess when it comes back to me, I guess I'll tell you guys. But I catch you guys all the time. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna come back And like hopefully I'll catch you guys. And what did you say at 11 o'clock tonight?
11 o'clock Eastern time. I think that's about 8 o'clock your time, isn't it? If you're in the Pacific.
All right, I'm gonna follow you and I'm gonna see what's gonna go on.
All right, I'll fire up the telescope tonight. Find yourself a target or two you might like to see too. You can do a little research between now and then.
You know,
Say,
like
I want to see
I'm
the Owl
pretty
Nebula
sure.
or
I'm
whatever.
pretty sure I'm already expecting what you're gonna show me, but the thing is, I think I'm not explaining it correctly, and you might get me wrong. I'm talking more about the focus, like focusing on two um objects that's not close to each other.
That's
I don't know how
exactly what
to.
I was talking about. That's what I took you to mean. So we'll look at the moon, we'll look at stars, we'll look at satellites in orbit. You want to see some satellites in orbit?
Sure.
Okay, we'll have a look at some satellites in orbit tonight.
Okay, we could do that. All right.
I'll see you
Thanks for
tonight.
having me though. I'm out though.
Yep, see you tonight at 8 your time.
Thanks for joining.
All
Have a
right,
good
brother.
night.
All right.
Good guy.
Bob, I just love you when you're in teaching mode. It's so you're so
Good guy.
gentle and knowledgeable, and it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy that. The thing that I don't enjoy is people arguing the obvious in
Right.
reality. And, I'll try and teach them to begin with, and then I'll just gut them like a deer.
And who can blame you? Well, I guess flat earthers do, but
That's why most
that's
of
just
them
me.
have me banned.
Oh my.
Of course, they don't realize I've got several other accounts and I monitor their channels. Just remember, I'm watching. And I was them once.
You were them once?
Oh, yeah.
You mean you are a former flat earther?
No, I'm them. I'm the government. I used to be
Oh,
once.
oh. Right. Okay. Sorry. I was like, there's no way.
No. I might have been a flat earther when I was 4, but no, I mean, I observed the globe personally and made the connection well before I was 10.
Yeah, now that you mention that, I remember you saying that before. I should have known.
Yeah, I was looking out at the ocean at ships over the horizon, and it was watching Apollo 17 go up. Those are the two things that
Yeah.
absolutely convinced me that the Earth was a sphere. And I was
You know,
very young at the time.
I just don't even remember ever like having any kind of question in my mind
Well, I never
about
did
it. Like
either, but
as
I
soon as
just,
I was old enough to to formulate any kind of question about it, I had long already like understood certain proofs of it, like, the change of seasons.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just self-evident, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you want to actually look with your own eyes at the geometric shape of the Earth, those were the two things that I saw with my own eyes that absolutely convinced me that the Earth was a sphere. Because,
The
I mean,
funny
there was
thing
no
is,
question about it.
what you said about the Apollo 17, like,
It
did you
took
say
40
it disappeared
seconds.
over the?
No, it took 40 seconds to come up over the horizon, then I could see it clear as day. But it was 40 seconds after launch before I could see it. But the flame on that thing, if you hold your hand out,
Oh, right.
if you hold your hand out at arm's length and make a fist, the flame on it was as long as your fist was, from 150 miles.
Ooh.
And it was Apollo 17 was December of 1972, and it was a night launch. And I mean,
Now I think I'm starting to visualize what you're
blatantly,
describing.
it was blatantly obvious that you could see it. It's not like it was hidden in the trees or, it was in, the convergence zone of the horizon. I mean, it was not there. And then by gosh, by golly, there it was. And
So
I
you're
mean, there
talking
was,
about something really big, really far away that's like kind of like, wow, it's so big, so
yeah,
far
I mean,
away and
it's
moving so fast.
enormous. I'm honestly
Yeah.
surprised I couldn't hear the blasted thing. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard a Saturn V
Well,
go off.
maybe a
Ask
few
Blue
minutes
Marble.
later, if you'd had the right equipment, you could have heard it.
Yeah. But ask Blue Marble Science over on YouTube, who personally saw Apollo 11 launch, and he was at the Cape when it launched. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like a Saturn V launch from what he told me. And he's heard a lot of really loud noises in his life.
Oh boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gotta be
Science is just absolutely
awesome.
fascinating and amazing, the things that you can see and just do yourself.
You know, I've been trying to develop a methodology in my mind to use star trails to prove like a globe, because I started to realize like my favorite proof was always the sunset, because it's like, oh, you can do that in your backyard for less than $100 and you don't have to trust one other soul in the whole world, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to travel either. But then I
Nope.
started to realize, wait, even where I am right now, I can see the southern celestial hemisphere.
You could probably see the top
And
of it from the United States. Yeah. It depends on how
yeah,
far
so
south you are.
literally I can probably show both counterclockwise movement and clockwise movement if I measure it correctly.
Oh, you
And
could
so
easily do that. No. All you have to do is look south. You'll see the counterclockwise motion. Every
yeah,
if you look north, it's counterclockwise. If you look south from anywhere, they rotate clockwise.
yeah,
And by looking at the star trails, you can see the arc of the star trails, and you can mentally
right.
figure out where the center of that arc is, and it'll be below the horizon. Do it
Yeah,
tonight. Look, do it tonight when you just point your camera towards the north, take a picture for an hour. Point your camera towards the south, take a picture for an hour. You'll see them both. I mean, it's very obvious. And if you get a
maybe I'll try
compass
that.
out, if you get a little compass out, and put the pencil on the compass on one tip of the star trail, and move the point of the compass so that it goes over to the other end of the star trail, you'll be able to locate the center of that rotation, and you'll see it's below the horizon. That
Yeah,
might help you. That might be what you're looking for.
yeah. I might do that. We'll see. That's pretty cool. I
The
was
other
kind
thing,
of
there's one other thing that you can piece of paper and make a series of concentric circles on it. And what you do is you just take that paper and line up an arc on a star trail, and then line up another arc on the star trail, and the center of the paper will be where the thing is. You'll be able to put that template right over it, and you'll be able to fit it.
nice. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can do it on something clear, it'd be even better. But
What I kind of envision though is, of course, I'm thinking of this in like, okay, what's my next great masterpiece of a video to share on social media to convince the flat earthers, you know? Um, and so I want it to be bulletproof, you know, and and also have some eye candy and stuff for them. And so I'm kind of thinking like along the lines of uh like measuring, just like I did with the sunset, taking a compass and a sextant, maybe getting a better compass this time with it, like if there's one with more scientific precision. I just had like a I don't know,
Boy Scout compass.
it's something like that. And actually it's right here.
I've got a military compass that's pretty good. You can generally pick those up. You can pick those up for 30 or $40. Yeah, that's a
Sorry, I
military
had to
compass.
take my headphone out for a second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
this is what
military
I was using.
compass. Yeah, that's a military
Um,
style compass. That works great.
it was
Yeah,
less precise than my sextant when I was measuring the sunset. And so I wondered if there might be a more precise instrument that I could find. Because like with the sextant, it had the like the vernier scale and everything,
hmm
um, and that just seems like it's, you know, a whole world above the compass.
If you
All I've
pop
got
that
is
thing up,
one.
there should be a little arm on that thing down by your thumb. No, there's not an arm on it, is there? Okay, so that's not an
Uh,
actual. All right, so that's not an actual military compass. What a military compass is it's got a little arm that pops up. So you orient it, and then you shift that thing and sight to your target, and then you read out the number of mils to the target. So it's kind of like a surveyor compass. Yeah, if you were
I have
local, I'd let you
something.
borrow mine. But,
I might search for surveyor compass then.
well, no, just get an
Anyway,
Army surplus compass is what you need.
of course
It'll have that little pop-up thing.
they have all these like things that they brand now as like tactical gear, and it's not actually.
Go to an Army Navy
Oh,
store.
I taped some coins here to make it sit level. I forgot about that because of this little
Metal coins?
tab.
Metal coins?
Yeah, is that going to interfere?
I'm bet,
Oh no.
I bet if your compass wasn't reading right, there might have been something interfering with it.
Oh no. Did I make a grave mistake? Oh no.
Well, it depends
That's
on what the
embarrassing.
coins are made out of, whether they're they're
Well,
magnetic or
it's
not.
a dime
If
and a
there's,
quarter.
hey, I don't know what they're made out of, but I'm wondering whether or not see if it reads differently with the coins on it or not.
They don't stick to a magnet.
Yeah, but see if it reads differently with the coins on it or not.
I don't know.
Yeah,
How
I
would I
mean,
tell?
well, the needle would move.
It doesn't seem to move, no.
Okay, so you might have lucked out. Probably non-ferrous.
I guess that
Yeah,
was kind of
use
dumb,
wood.
wasn't it?
Use wood. Yeah, use wood. Get a paint
Oh
stick.
man.
Get a paint stick and use that as a
Yeah.
shim
Yeah.
or toothpicks or
Anyway,
something.
what I was saying is like I kind of was thinking of basically marking the or measuring the azimuth and altitude of several different stars at different latitudes in the sky at several different times throughout the night so that I can basically, you know, plot with numeric certainty, you know, what that circular path is and show that the circular path of stars in the northern hemisphere are on this side of um, being an orthodrome, and then on the circular path of stars in this hemisphere are on this side of being an orthodrome, and sort of use that to extrapolate. Like there's a axis of rotation like that goes straight through me as an observer
Mm-hmm.
at a tilt of however like whatever my latitude is, and show like this only makes sense on a globe.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was envisioning. I don't know. I'm
All
still
right.
working through it in my mind.
Keep my idea in mind with the concentric circles on a clear piece of plastic. Because
Yeah, for sure.
that might actually do exactly what you're asking about.
Yeah.
That'll show you exactly where the pole is, and you'll be able to measure it to the horizon, how many degrees it is from the horizon, or how high how many degrees below the horizon it would be, and that would give you an idea of the tilt of the Earth.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. You got
I'll
one more, or do you want me to get out of here?
I don't have any guest requests at the moment. Of course you're always welcome, like I said.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'll get on out of here. And
Thank you for joining.
my dog is eating a sea clamp. A sea clamp. Why are you
Wow.
chewing on that? Gracie.
Yeah, Gracie, come on.
I've never seen a piece of metal. And it's a substantial piece of metal. That's a 6-inch sea clamp she's chewing on. And she's a female. I'd hate to see what a male did. All right. Well, I'm going to see you. I'll see you a little bit later. Thank you very much for having me up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day. All right. How long have I been live? Darn it. This thing keeps popping up in front of what I'm trying to press. Why is it? Okay, I'm going to look on my recording instead. All right, been on live about an hour and a half. I might go a little bit longer. We'll see. Um, what's going on in the comments here? Oh, that's all right, Alapi. If you wanted to join, you're certainly welcome. Um, I usually try to keep it like one-on-one. I make an exception for Bob, but Flat Earther's actually requesting right now, so now would be a perfect opportunity if you wanted to join. Tides and how we predict them is Flat Earth kryptonite. Yep. Oh, Dead Horse, I gave you a kind of a bum rap last night. I think I saw a comment that I thought you were saying like that the guest had caught me like breaking my own rules, and you said it was sarcastic. Um, so just wanted to acknowledge that. Sorry about that. What's going on here? Um, you're not listening to anything. Get off TikTok and go learn something. Hmm. Typical bickering, I guess. Southern Hemisphere is what destroys flat Earth. Yes, 100%. Well, because it's their it was their mistake to adopt the North Pole azimuthal map as their true map because that's what like that's where all of the trouble starts. You know, as soon as they made that claim, it's like, okay, now we've got 1,000 million ways to falsify that. If they'd almost have been better off saying, "Oh, we have no idea, we don't have a map," you know, then we would have had to basically start from scratch with cartography as long as they, you know, would disagree with like high altitude photography and stuff. Oh boy. You know, I hate to say it. I see some of this stuff going on in the comments. I hate to say it, but if the flat earther involved is not willing to abide by these rules, then unfortunately I would have to not welcome them. But if they were willing to abide by the rules, then they would certainly be welcome. So it's all dependent on that. I don't want to have a conversation with a troll. That's not what I'm here for. I'd much rather just end the live early. Um, So somebody's saying invite Zane. Is Zane the? Yeah, Zane, are you willing to abide by these rules? We can have a friendly conversation. These rules right here. We could have a friendly conversation. You don't have to worry about all these other people in the comments. Just you and me. If you're willing, request to join. I'll invite you. But you know, I do enforce these rules. So you're just here for the chat. Okay, I respect that. I respect that. As long as you're not being a troll in the chat, I guess. There's always that caveat. I might try to see if we'll get one more guest before I stop my live. Zane says I haven't trolled anyone. Well, I haven't paid enough attention to know. I'll take your word for it unless I see somebody else. Not that I don't have any moderators in the comments right now, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, so I guess since I don't have anybody requesting at the moment, I might point out. Dead Horse says, Peter, have you seen Stingray and how he explains the flat Earth sun model doesn't work? Yeah, I saw Helping Flat Earth said he got like help from Stingray, I think it was, on like some Blender models that he had. And that was amazing. Like some of the stuff I saw there. And of course Stingray always has great Blender demonstrations. I love his stuff. I think it's important that we have a bunch of people with a bunch of different techniques for attacking this problem. I really appreciate Stingray's work, and I think it's like part of me almost wants to do that, but then like I keep coming back to, when I'm using Blender, I'm using it for artwork. If I'm trying to convince a flat earther, I shy away from Blender because it's like, in my mind, it's so easy for it would be at least so easy for them to just say, oh well, that's just software, you know. So I try to stick to more like physical demonstrations. But like, you know, I haven't actually heard a flat earther make that objection yet. So maybe Stingray's approach, maybe there's a lot of flat earthers that would be more convinced by that, or whatever. And so I appreciate the fact that he's out there doing that. I really do. That's just awesome. I think there's yeah. Anyway, so what I was going to show was this thing I showed earlier. Oh, hi, Richard P. Welcome. So this thing I was shown earlier about how we can see almost 360 degrees of the sky during any given night. That's right here on my TikTok profile, if anybody hasn't seen. It's a pretty recent video. And it was made in response to this guy, Hoyt Hoiberg. And this guy, Hoyt Hoiberg, was starting to get on my nerves because he he did not respond to this, even though he promised he would. So, in my mind, that makes him look a little bit like a coward. But it's worse than that because he won't stop tagging me in other stuff. So it's like he has this awful tactic of hit and run, hit and run, hit and run, just kind of trying to wear you down until you eventually, like, I don't know what his goal is, to have you respawn and get dragged into the mud with a trolling fight. I don't know, but like, it seems so dishonest because he will just, as soon as you give a valid answer, he will just abandon the conversation, retreat, and then just switch ground until he gets, some kind of advantage on you. That is completely dishonest behavior in my mind. Completely disrespectful, non-respectable, dishonest behavior. I have no respect for that. And then even worse, while doing this, if you don't respond to any given thing, after he has basically harassed and spammed with all these tags, after ignoring like all of my legitimate answers, I finally start ignoring him. And then he has the gall to say, like, oh, you're just running away because you don't have it. Really? Really? Hoyt Hoiberg? You are the one doing that. You! It really kind of got on my nerves. So, yeah. Anyway, I try not to get down in the mud with trolls. I really do. And there is absolutely no question in my mind now that Hoyt Hoiberg is one of those. So I try not to respond to him anymore, but wow, that just really got on my under my skin when he accused me of the very thing he was doing. It was like, Zane says, hey, Peter, even though we disagree on some stuff, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That is really awesome. I appreciate that. NASA Spy says, I can pop up for a minute if you want to chat. Sure, if you want. I don't have any other people requesting right now. I'm always willing to chat. Stupid 209 says, I thought you were going to talk about the shape of the Earth in this live. Well, yeah, okay, did you catch like the 2 minutes where I was talking about another flat earther? during all the hours of time that I've spent on the live talking about Shape of the Earth. All right, NASA spy, welcome.
Hey, what's happening?
Not much. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Okay, just
at least
checking
I
the
can.
headset. So, I was gonna pop in last night, but you got off. Um,
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
oh no, it's okay. I wanted to, might help you out. I don't know. You might already know some of this stuff, but
Well, I
you
don't know
get these.
everything.
Yeah. Welcome to it. It's been a learning experience the last few years for me too about all this crap.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I think that interests you is the biblical side of this. And I know they hit you with that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and I will hit back. I
That's,
I love the Bible. I'm defensive of the Bible, and I do not like flat earthers trying to use it. That just really gets me going.
and I can agree with that. Yeah, I feel the same way, but probably differently. So I just wanted to share with this, trying to find a.
It's like somebody insulting my mother or something, you know? It's like, oh, don't you dare. Don't you
Okay,
dare.
well then don't get offended by me because I don't mean to offend anybody. Um,
Well, I mean, if you're respectful, I don't think it sounds like you're gonna cross that line.
no, I'm never intentionally disrespectful. But you know, when you get into some of these conversations, sometimes it's hard. You can step on toes with differences of opinion and stuff.
So are you coming from
So
like a point of view where you don't necessarily believe the Bible
I'm
or
not an
don't take it
atheist,
as
and I I'll just leave it at there. I
See, I can
am not fundamentalist, though. I can't get far away enough
yeah.
from fundamentalism. Uh, I would say a much more academic approach, and one of the really important distinctions I think that needs to be made is the difference between subjective academic consensus versus objective consensus versus subjective beliefs, and trying to keep those separate, which can be really hard to do when you look at biblical studies versus philosophy and theology, right?
Yeah.
So we get into hermeneutics both objectively and subjectively, and
Yeah.
that's why you have 40,000 different opinions. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
but
I mean, it is a very controversial book. And the thing is, obviously, there's a lot of different views on the Bible. And if somebody has a
yeah,
different view on the Bible than me, that to me is not inherently insulting in any way. Like, of course, you know, we could dialogue about like hermeneutics or whatever. The thing that gets me that I was saying, like comparing to somebody insulting my mother, um, is that they try to use the Bible
mm-hmm,
to prove something so or to champion something so anti-scientific. And
mm-hmm,
in doing so, they make the Bible look bad, to put it mildly. And that's what boils my blood. That's what
sure.
makes me angry. It's
And
like,
I agree, and I would say I would make the same argument for some other types of fundamentalism as well. But flat Earth is
yeah,
definitely the bottom of the barrel, both as
yes,
a
yeah,
representation of any Abrahamic faith, but also as the dumbest hoax on the internet that there
yeah,
probably is. I mean, it's just like the bottom of the barrel. So we agree there.
yeah.
But you
It's when you
have
claim to represent the Bible and Jesus and God, and then use that to support something bad. That is
many of them
that
do.
is unacceptable. That is,
Agreed.
I mean, in some
But
cases, it can verge on blasphemy when people do that.
yeah, but to be fair, I mean, there's been a lot of fear mongering and uh, terrible acts of evil done in the name of religion over
Yeah.
a very long
Yeah.
time, and that's just bad people capitalizing on a con or a way to
Right.
utilize what they can to to do awful things. But not to go down that road. But I think, so I can get to the point quickly, I would say that you're going to have flat earthers telling you that that the scholarly consensus is that the Bible teaches flat earth. And that's what I wanted to address. And it's kind of right, but it's absolutely wrong. So if
Yeah.
you look at the academic consensus with like your university scholars, not some seminary. I don't really respect the seminary scholars because seminaries are very biased to their beliefs and don't have a separation between biblical studies, ancient Hebrew studies, versus their beliefs and their theology, right? We have to have a separation there. So when we look at cultural
Yeah. You and
context
I
and
might
literary
end up
styles,
disagreeing a little bit
I know
on
we
this
will.
topic.
I know we will,
Yeah.
because I'm on the other side of the fence from fundamentalism.
Yeah.
However, that's okay. I know
Yeah. We could be
fundamentalists.
respectful
Yeah,
in that
I've had
disagreement.
this
Yeah.
conversation lots of times, and it's fine. That's why I said I don't mean any disrespect. I don't want you to get frustrated with me, but I do want to.
Doesn't sound like I will. I appreciate you. I
Yeah.
mean, the tone you've taken so far is just wonderful. Thank you.
So, but I do want to help you understand where they're coming from, so that you
Yeah.
can, at least if you don't already know, then now you'll know. So if you look at all the big names in scholars like Michael Heiser, Walton,
Yeah.
Mackey,
I've heard of them.
Medinger,
Yeah.
right? These are all the big biblical scholars. Even some on TikTok like your McClellan or Wayne Fillmore is pretty decent. There's a few here on TikTok, but you look at all the biblical scholars, none of them teach any sort of science denial at all. They don't.
Right.
That is not the consensus. They like literally look at this as ancient oral tradition. It is not insisting in any way on scientific things. That's not what it is. You're studying an ancient culture. And these people, the biblical authors, aside from whether or not you believe how spiritually inspired they were or anything like that, because that's subjective belief, but if we just look at what historians know objectively, this is pre science society. They didn't know what a planet was, they didn't know what a solar system was yet, they did not have that knowledge yet. And so most scholars agree, yeah, the biblical authors wouldn't have known any better. When they say the word earth in ancient texts like Genesis, they're talking about what's below their feet. They're not referring to a planet. They didn't know what a
You know,
planet was.
something interesting did just come to my mind when you were talking about how they didn't have, any knowledge of
Yeah.
science and stuff. In Genesis, when God speaks to Abraham and establishes the Abrahamic covenant, he says, "Your descendants will be as the stars of heaven for multitude, so that they cannot be counted." That's the phrase used. And the thing that's interesting to me about that is that before all these telescopes and, space or astronomy technology, how many stars did people think there were? I think the naked eye star count is like what, 1,000?
A lot less light pollution back in those days. And, humans have been looking up at the sky at night since there's been humans, right? We've always been looking up at the sky. So,
Of
yeah,
course, there were.
as numerous as the stars, it's very poetic. Um,
It
did
is
you
poetic.
know? Did you know that they also say that Genesis chapter 12 to the end, so from Abraham to the end of Jacob's life, where Joseph's in Egypt, right? That's written by one author, but chapter 1 to 11 is different authors. And it was written
I've heard
later
that
during the
claim.
time
Yeah.
of Babylonian captivity. It was later. It's a later um, sort of
I'm not
fable.
sure how they established that.
They have their, these are experts, these are scholars. I
Well, I
tend
mean, it sounds
to,
to me like higher criticism, right? Like comparing the text with other texts that sound
yes,
similar and things like that. Like,
references back to other texts.
I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't, personally, I don't really have a lot of respect for higher criticism on the text. Um,
Well, I don't care for trying to inject current scientific knowledge in to force it, when really
no, of course.
it's a lot simpler to just say, hey, they didn't know any better. It's ancient people. And you have a sort of an academic consensus saying, yeah, they wouldn't have really known any better. And we have biblical cosmology showing they probably thought the earth was flat. There are, and that doesn't take from Christianity, just to be clear. That with fundamentalists, that really is a hard pill to swallow a lot of the time because they need
Well,
that to not be true,
it's
you
because they
know?
believe that it's the inspired word of God, right? So if you can say that it's possible that they were wrong about one thing that we now know better on,
Right?
then you can say that about something else and then something else and
Exactly.
eventually how do you have any authority left
That is
with
a
scripture?
yes, and that is a really important distinction to make towards realism versus fundamentalism, because that is the pitfall of fundamentalism. If it's not a literal read, as if it was a book written in modern times that you're just simply translating from one language to the other, which it's not, then all of a sudden it falls apart. And I've heard fundamentalists say, well, if I'm not reading it literally, I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. And it's like they deconstruct over it, and it's like, well, that's really sad because there's something
Yeah.
really special about the ancient Israelite people, and you can still have that without taking it literally, you
Now I
know
just want to say, Olympi, I see that you're requesting and stuff, and uh, it makes me so sad that it's just this moment that I mean, you've been in for a minute now requesting, and I'm just, especially with this conversation, I feel like I really need to keep it one on one because this is a delicate conversation. And for my own sake, and this is nothing against you, nothing against NASA Spy or anybody else. It's just for my own sake. I need this to be one on one. I'm so sorry. So maybe uh, if you're willing to stick around, I'll have you up after NASA Spy. But thank you so much. Um,
I think the short um, point, just so I can land the plane, and then we can certainly go on.
well,
I'm
that
happy to
wasn't me
talk.
trying to wrap you up. I was going
Oh
to
yeah,
respond to what you were
okay,
saying.
okay. I was just going to get back to flat earthers saying that scholars say that the Bible claims the
Yeah,
earth is flat, because they don't. They, in fact, what the scholars say is that the people didn't know any better. So you can make that inference very easily. But in no way does the Bible insist on anything scientifically at all. It's a
right.
ridiculous claim to make. You're dealing with a pre-science society. That's just not what's going on. And if you'd like, I have about a 60-second video from Michael Heiser from a while back that literally
I've
speaks to
probably
flat
seen it,
Earth.
to be
You
honest.
might have. It's a flat Earth biblical thing where he kind of just does a really brief rundown on it. If not, I could
So,
always send it to you in a direct message.
sure, that works. Am I following you? Let me see. Yeah, okay. I've just followed you, so you can hopefully send me DMs.
Yeah, I'll send
Um,
that too.
yeah. So the issue is, I guess, in by this definition that it seems like we're using, I am a fundamentalist. I do believe that the Bible is inspired by God and has authority. And the reason that I believe that is because the Bible seems to me to meet an enormous standard, like an enormously high standard compared to other texts of this kind or other texts from that period. And it's when some of your arguments about, like, making this inference that, well, they were products of this time and people during this time believed this, and therefore, you know like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, there is a level of inference there. And I think what we have to do is ask the question, um, not what we think they probably believed or didn't believe, but what do we think they are saying they believe? Does that make sense? And so,
Yeah, and honestly, we have a really different interpretation of that when we're reading this type of stuff in the third person. Like,
yeah,
and you got to understand that they didn't really think of it like a religion or like a belief. It's just what they thought. You know, you're reading something in a third
you're talking about
person.
the
You're
flat
reading.
Earth.
No, I'm just saying in general. When I mean, shoot, I saw that the very first time I read through the Bible. I'm like, I'm totally in the third person here. I'm looking at
I never
this
saw it
guy.
even once. I read the
Yeah,
Bible like 8 times back to back until I've heard of modern flat Earth theory. I never saw it
oh,
once,
yeah, no,
except
I'm not saying flat Earth. I'm saying being in the
oh,
third person. What I mean is when you're reading it, you're in the third person. In other words, like say you're looking at
oh,
a
I see.
letter.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So we're in
Sorry,
the
I'm with
third
you now.
person.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with
Um,
you now.
and that is a really good distinction to make as well. You're just looking
Yeah.
at ancient oral traditions. Do you know one third of it is poetry? Every third paragraph you read is Hebrew poetry. And I heard one scholar say, don't think of poetry like roses are red, violets are blue. This isn't French poetry. We're talking about some of the earliest poetry that was ever written by humans.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand that the ancient scribes wrote in a lot of poetry, quite a bit. It's not just Psalms and Proverbs, it's the entire thing. Even the Gospels have poetry in them. There's a lot of poetry in the they told stories and how they wrote things down, as well as a lot of
Yeah.
hyperbole in narratives and things like that, and a lot of fable,
So
and
just so
that's
we're clear,
okay.
and this
Yeah.
is a curious question to help me understand you. Um, One thing that comes to mind right away is like, for example, in Genesis chapter 1, we have in our modern Bible translations, the text is typeset in prose until we get to verse 27. Then it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And that verse by itself is typeset differently because presumably they saw some indication in the manuscripts that this was some shift in like topic or not topic, shift in something, that deserved to be typeset differently. And it's, I can show it right here on the page. It stands out,
What
Is that
version
what you're
is that?
talking about? This is
Oh,
ESV.
okay. Yeah, not necessarily. I'm just saying that I've heard more than one scholar mention that, about a third of all of it is poetry, just in talking about different literary styles and
Well, if we
reminding
account
you.
for all of these parts where it does that, I could believe that's almost a third. I don't know what it would amount to, but you can see it
It's
peppered
hard
all
to
throughout.
identify. There's and here's a poem. When you're following. Who's good at pointing that out is Tim Mackey. If you ever walk through it on the Bible Project, if you want just a very beginner level look, I should say, or introductory level at a scholar walking you through the Bible, he does a pretty good job. And
Okay.
he'll point out quite a bit if you do his walkthroughs, where he'll be, doing an overview of a particular book or chapter, and he'll say, and then here's a poem that Luke wrote. And you're like, Luke wrote a poem? I didn't even realize that, just kind of interesting, right? It's like, that's actually a poem. Never would have thought that, so the average person, and this is the problem with fundamentalism, that and is that it's hard to know those types of things. You're not going to know it. And, it could be helpful for some people that are, all the way to thinking the earth is flat, thinking that that's telling them because they're reading something that, you know, well, I guess the Bible says the earth is flat, or I guess it says this, that, or the other too, because there are a lot of other things that just aren't accurate in today's knowledge that we have either, without,
Like what?
side railing. Oh, medical things, you know, uh, having a
Okay.
literal 6 day creation, uh, eschatology, getting into apocalyptic literature. You know, there's we could go all night, and I don't want to get
Okay,
too
yeah, and
far
I
off the
suppose my
rails.
position would be, somewhat weak from your point of view in some of those areas.
I
Of
know it's
course,
okay.
it sounds like my position is weak in your view, no matter what. But like,
It's
I
all
don't
right.
know.
It's all
I'm
right.
not confident in my ability to argue for, for example, a literal 6-day creation, even though I do believe that. Um,
Well,
um,
anything that goes against objective reality is where I say, hey, that's okay. We don't have to force that on ancient text. All societies had mythology and had beliefs. This just happens to be the Abrahamic, ancient Israel,
yeah.
which for 2.5 billion people is important, right? So
It does sound like you and I are approaching this text with like pretty radically incompatible presumptions, though. Like
and
to
well,
me, it's basically because of the way like because of the virtue and merit that I see in the text, like that is objectively verifiable as far as I can tell. Um, we basically it deserves the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of any doubt. So like if we don't if we look at a text that appears to say maybe the earth is flat or whatever, or any, just because that's an easy example,
mhm.
the question has to be, is that really saying that the earth is flat? Or is there some doubt? Is it possibly phenomenological, for example? And if it's possible that it's just phenomenological and not making any real statement about what it looks like from space, then we don't have to stick to that. Like that's just
I
our
gotcha.
21st
So what?
century view looking
Right.
back. And so we're
You're
projecting that onto them. It would be an equal mistake to project our 21st century view onto them as it would be to come up with what we think their 3000 BC view would be and project that onto them. You know what I mean? If they don't
This is
take a position,
apologetics, is what you're doing.
yeah,
What you're doing is apologetics. You're inserting, and you're not alone. This is what people do. You know, where it's a type of apologetics that is saying, well, are they really saying that? Can we interpret this differently to where we're not, we're almost sort of
we use phenomenological language all the time, right? To me, that's not a stretch at all. Just saying.
yeah, I know
I'm
that's where
not
you're
trying
at.
to
I know
just,
that's where your head's at. But at the same time, you got to realize that young Earth is doing something similar that flat Earth is doing. It's still ignoring some objective reality and sort of making something, well, it says right here, and I'm
okay,
taking this
well, let's go
literally.
down that route. What objective reality? Are we talking about Darwinism?
Geology, astronomy, yeah, the academic, just the basic consensus, anybody except for about I think it's around 22% of Christians are fundamentalist. So it's not even the majority of Christians who fall into that category to
Okay.
take Genesis 1 literally. Most scholars say it's a type of mythology or a mytho-history. It is not a literal story. So that right there is the position. It's to say that I don't
So are you
need.
making the argument that because of a certain view is the majority, therefore it's correct or objective?
Not necessarily, no. No, because academic consensus is not absolute. We can't, I'm not saying that at all. We would never, that would be a poor argument to say, okay, this the vast scholarly
I'm not
consensus
the one who said it.
says A. Well, I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm not saying that
Yeah,
that is always the end all on anything, because it never,
right,
that's not fair to do that. But it does
right.
have merit. It does have some merit. These are the experts. These are people with PhDs that have devoted their life to studying this stuff. And this
Yeah,
seems to be what the majority of them are coming back with. So there's
yeah.
merit there. That's all I'm saying. And I'm just saying that if something de- defies physics and what we sort of know right now, then I don't need I don't need to insert that. And it's kind of sad to me that to see people actually completely deconstruct out of it over that, because they go, well, this is wrong, this isn't literal, and then they literally leave the entire thing. You know what I mean? Or but they may, a lot of
Well,
people you see that grew up in a like abusive, childhoods and things as well.
yeah.
There's that.
Well, let me just be totally honest here. If we were to set aside the entire debate over the facts and science and everything and hermeneutics and everything, if we were to just say, let's say like somehow it were like 100% proven that man evolved from a single cell organism or had a common ancestor with apes, right? Somehow that was proven to us. The same way that we can take a photograph of the Earth. Um, the reason that my mind rebels against that is because to me, God has bestowed special significance to mankind, and to me, it seems like an insult both to us and to God to say that we have a common ancestor with apes or with any other random, insect or piece of slime that might be like respirating or something. Like to me, that is it completely uh, turns on its head everything that I believe about
You just nailed it.
anthropology
Yeah.
and theology, and it's like I suppose that maybe there could be some way of looking at it where the gospel is still true and Jesus still rose from the dead and paid for my sins, where we still evolved from something like ape-like or whatever. But I don't understand that from my point of view right now. I don't see how that could work because I believe that God has put special significance on man. The whole idea of the Bible having authority to say, we are sinners, we deserve hell unless we accept Christ. Um, the whole idea of it having authority on that subject depends on its authority when it speaks, and in Genesis it says that God made Adam from the dust of the ground and breathed life into him, and that he made Adam in his own image. That is a profound statement. So it's all this theology and anthropology and philosophy that basically just gets burned to the ground. It's I don't think we can just brush that under the rug and say, well, fundamentalists are just being uptight. You know,
You're not the first person I've heard exactly everything you just said. I've heard it many times. And you're spot on with how people feel from your point of view. That's exactly how they feel. And as you're walking through that just now, there were several times where I almost just I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's like, okay, well, we could deconstruct that, we could deconstruct that, because each thing is sort of a different road to go down, right? And it's just unfortunate, point of view. To me, I just find it kind of sad because it's like, dang, you're missing out. It's
I'm gonna invite.
irrelevant.
I think this is Alippi still in my queue. Is that right?
Oh, by all
He's been
means,
very
don't let me
patient.
stop you. Yeah,
I'm
don't let
not
me
gonna
stop
kick
you.
you off, NASA Spy. I think he wanted to actually engage with you a little bit. We'll see. So stick
But
around for a second if you're willing.
yeah, that's fine.
Is this still you, Alippi? Okay. Um,
I was just going to say, Peter, that to that with the evolution part
yeah.
is that it's simply irrelevant. It's interesting to me whenever you see like atheist theist debates or evolution or not debates. This is the debate. It's literally only people who are taking that literally that have the exact point of view that you're explaining to everybody, right? It's
I
not.
mean, I didn't
A,
even go over all of it. I mean, the whole
I
issue
know,
of
but I know
atonement,
where you're at. I know where you're at.
like ages of death before the fall, like
That's
it
oral
just makes no
tradition.
sense, to me at least.
Hebrews, they counted differently. Those were not literal year. People didn't live to be 1,000 years old. But I don't want to go down that with you. There are just things that there's hyperbole. There's, it's the difference between. It's a difference in how you're looking at hermeneutics, and that's fine. You know, I was more or less trying to really get and drill down on. Look, scholars are saying yeah, they didn't know any better. They probably thought the Earth was flat. We have
Yeah.
other cosmology from them at the time, where we see drawings and stuff where yeah, they probably thought the Earth was flat. There's drawings where they've got a god hoisting the sun with ropes and pulleys up and down each day. You know, obviously that's not true. But this is a pre-science. Yeah, this is ancient in that
Well,
area.
I mean,
You know, yeah,
there's nothing
look it
about that
up.
that seems implausible to me, especially since was it not a Hebrew, I mean, this was not a Hebrew culture drawing,
I
right?
believe it
Like,
was. Yeah, I believe it was Hebrew culture
okay,
that did
well,
that, where you
even
have the.
so,
It's
that doesn't
okay.
necessarily mean that it's
It's not a
from
put
the
down.
fundamentalist point of view, God has revealed himself in human history, right? That's the fundamentalist view. And so there's this bright thread of shining truth of God acting in human history that we try to isolate and follow, right? And not all of Hebrew culture is going to be included in that. You know, it's specifically the Tanakh, the Torah, the
Hmm.
Ketuvim, the I don't remember all of the words that the Old Testament scripture that they
Hmm.
understood as scripture at the time, plus the writings of the apostles of Jesus Christ. That's that golden thread that we follow. And anything outside of that, who knows whether that's, polluted by mankind's ignorance or not. Like, I,
Well,
I
New
don't know what to tell
Testament,
you.
New Testament is a whole different subject than the Tanakh when it comes to these discussions. But they did have a lot of
Right.
similarities in the oral tradition and in how they wrote things down. Even later during the first and second century, when you have the Gospels being written in the first century, they weren't written until like 70 AD.
Right.
John was written in like 90 AD. They weren't written by the actual apostles. They were written later. They
I
used to
beg to
say,
differ.
Yeah.
well, this is kind of the consensus. They used to say that Mark.
Once again, appeal to
I
popularity, right?
well, I mean, I don't think that's disagreed. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. These writings are
You don't
dated.
think anybody disagrees with the statement
That
that the
that the Gospels were
epist
written during the late first century.
I'm pretty sure John was written in 2280 or 33. I wouldn't
I
use
don't
this
know if
about.
I've
Olympia, I did
seen
hear
anyone
something different
agree
about John.
disagree.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
John was
I did hear
later. It was the
something.
Maybe
last
I'm
one.
confusing them. Could be another
Maybe, yeah,
gospel.
maybe you're thinking of like I think Matthew or yeah, Matthew or Luke, I think were the first two.
It's Mark.
Yeah,
Is
Mark's the
that
maybe.
right?
first two of the
Yeah.
synoptics. It was Mark first, and then you have Luke and Matthew
Yeah.
right there just afterwards.
Well, one
And
of
the
the things that
idea
I like,
was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was kind of going to branch off a little bit. One of the things I like to focus on in this conversation is evidence of oral tradition in 1 Corinthians 15, which could be dated all the way to like 2 years after the life of Christ, um, as like the source of that oral tradition that contains all the basic tenets of the gospel. That Christ lived and died for our sins, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures. Like that's the gospel.
I
That's our
think the
saving faith right
oldest,
there. And
if I remember, it's been a while actually since I've been looking into this, but I think it was James was the oldest. Although they don't know who wrote Hebrews, but I believe it was James was the oldest writings in the New Testament. You can check me on
I
that.
thought Paul's epistles were the first ones written.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, they were early on for sure because Paul's writing letters, right? But you have James as a very old piece.
Okay. I mean, maybe James was written, still before the Gospels, but
Maybe
the
parallel
epistles,
with Paul, with the Pauline letters.
okay. I guess yeah, I guess I don't know exactly about James.
Yeah, it's not that important for the sake of the conversation, but
Yeah.
yeah, I always thought
Mm.
James was the oldest, and Mark was first in the Gospels, and some scholars believe that Mark got the author of Mark, right? This was Saint Mark. I forget it. John Mark, I think was his name.
Yeah.
And some believe that he did get his information from Peter, and so it's the
Well, yeah.
truest account, right? So that's your account right there, straight from Peter. And,
Right.
about a generation later, and then the Synoptic Gospels took from Mark. So you have Matthew and Luke taking that information also from Mark, and then adding to it.
Some of their own material though, like they aren't
Yeah,
identical.
yeah.
Like,
Luke went deep. Obviously, Luke wrote the most. He wrote
right.
Acts, so you have the most writings from him.
Yeah, and that's where we get the nativity story as well.
Yeah,
Of
Luke's
course,
kind of.
there's the story of the Magi in Matthew, but that was a little later than the nativity, I guess. Um, but yeah, like
Yeah, I think that's right, JB. I think it was 45 or 40. Yeah, it's pretty old for James.
so yeah, it makes sense that the Gospels were written early first century, or I think in the
I'd say
case
late
of,
first century, actually, like
or yeah, I'm sorry,
70.
I said that wrong. I said that wrong. Yeah, late first
And then
century, but
John
like
came
the
later, which I was disappointed when I heard that. I was like, John came last? Oh no, I didn't realize that.
well,
So
I mean, it makes sense, like because these people were taking time to think through exactly what was, necessary to write down and what they were trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
but the core message of all of the theology we already have attested earlier than that in the epistles. So, like, I mean, I see Bob the Science Guy just rejoined. We're probably going to bore him to tears. We're talking about New
yeah, that's okay.
Testament.
Yeah, Bob can handle it. He's cool.
Yeah.
He is
we
cool.
we are we are
Is he a
trying to approach
Christian?
it from a little bit of an academic angle here. I mean, we're not just spewing opinions, so necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
We're sort of saying, hey, this is the study of the subject. And to be
Yeah,
fair, it did pertain to flat Earth, so we weren't completely off the rails to your life.
right. Yeah, and unfortunately, I appreciate what you're trying to do. It's just like by pointing out, fundamentalism is the problem here. But I guess our views are kind of like oil and water. I'm not sure we're going to agree on this.
Oh, this is a common conflict, and like I said, it's
Yeah,
about a quarter. I think with most religions, you have right around a quarter of them fall into sort of a fundamentalism point of view. And America, by and large, has the most. So you have like 25% of Christians, say, across the world, but the bulk of them are in North America. So North America is full of fundamentalism. Lots of Protestant
Mm-hmm.
fundamentalists, some
yeah.
Catholic.
And
There's a
not
tiny
all
bit of
of them
Catholic
give us a
fundamentalism.
good
I, it's
presentation to the.
true, and I'm not saying that there aren't any good. There's lots of good people. It's not. It's not like I can't say it enough. It's not an insult. I'm not trying to put anyone down. That's not the point. But it's statistically right where you see
Right.
these different beliefs, and of course you have more culty sects that aren't just Protestant, like J Dubs or Seventh Day or whatever. Um, Not trying to step on toes. I'm just saying those are very, very
There are a
fundamentalist.
lot of like cults around the Christian
Oh
belief.
gosh, yeah, yeah, big time. So
A lot of
anyway,
cults also just sort of like willy-nilly kind of borrow certain concepts or whatever from Christianity, like Scientology, for example.
yeah, there's a
From my
cult.
understanding,
Hmm.
they are not at all Christian, not even
No,
Right.
based in Christianity, but I feel like I've heard of certain little things they'll say now and then to try to kind of pull in Christians or people with
to convert
Judeo-Christian
Protestants.
values. So like, you know, yeah,
because it
I don't
has
know.
power. Because
Right,
they're misusing biblical texts for their own purposes,
right.
for their own selfish purposes.
Have you ever
That's
seen
all.
The Book of Eli? I think it was a movie that
Oh,
came
good
out
movie
in
with yeah, it's Wesley, isn't it? That's where he's blind
Denzel
and has
Washington,
to
I think.
Denzel. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Denzel.
and Gary Oldman was the bad guy. And I love one of his quotes is like, "It's not a book, it's a weapon aimed right at the
Exactly.
hearts and minds of the weak
Exactly.
and the
That's it.
desperate."
He
And
didn't
it's
care about anything except
right,
utilizing it for his own purposes.
right. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Course, even there, you have a bit of excess of fundamentalism because it was sort of exalting the King James version and portraying this almost miraculous, uh, like it. Not to spoil the ending for anyone here, but I guess since the movie's over 10 years old,
That's
I can
old.
say this.
I think we're
Um,
good.
in the end, like it turns out that like they've lost it seems to be implied that they've lost all copies of the Bible except for this one braille copy that the main character has. He turns out to be blind, but he's like, and he even loses that, but it turns out he has memorized it, and so he
Yeah.
dictates it again, and they are able to reprint the Bible in the new city, like. And when I saw that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that would be
He
so
just
awful.
recites the entire thing in the last scene, and they print
Like,
it.
like imagine where we would be if we had no extant manuscripts from like from the medieval period. Like if all we had was what a blind guy recited like last year. That would be like the scholar or the scholarly poverty of that is just depressing. Like we would not be able to know for sure that he didn't make a mistake when reciting.
Yeah, they have
It
ancient scrolls they can actually look at. Old parchment and
right,
relics, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the
right,
Silver
exactly.
Scrolls.
And that's therein lies the foundation of our faith that Muslims don't have. You know, they
Mm.
had somebody actually round up and burn all the copies of the Quran that like didn't agree with the authoritative version. The Bible doesn't have that. And thank God. Thank God. We can know for sure now that what we have is pretty close to the autographs. It's pretty close. So yeah, that drove me nuts about that movie, but that's
I think they
not
like to use the KJV in movies just because of that Shakespearean, makes it more
right.
dramatic
Yeah,
for the
it's
sake of
yeah,
it being a
it's
movie.
cinematic.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll excuse it, because the movie was just so good otherwise.
it's always what they use in movies.
Yeah. I hope I didn't derail the conversation by
Oh,
talking
hey,
about the
I'm
Book of
happy
Eli.
to go into
Mm.
any other aspect of flat Earth. Do you want to just debunk flat Earth in general?
Yeah.
Or any other conspiracy
Actually, I should
theory, to
probably
tell you the
go.
truth.
I've already gone. I've already gone longer than I told my wife I would go on this live. So
Mm.
if our
Yeah, my wife's.
conversation's wrapping up,
Oh,
might be a
okay, yeah.
natural ending point. So,
I don't know how to say his name. I keep wanting to say something.
oh, this guy
MXTTS.
Alippi.
Uh,
Oh,
just
Aleppi. Okay,
wait,
sorry,
wait.
Aleppi.
Can you pronounce Mates? Mates?
Mattes? Mattes? Okay.
Matis.
Just call me Aleppi.
Okay, Aleppi.
Yeah.
We'll go with Aleppi.
I'm so sorry if we've kind of not given you an opportunity to speak so far,
It's okay. It's
Mates.
okay.
Well, if you get smart with me, I'm going to say, don't get Aleppi.
Oh. Um,
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Yeah, didn't even get the time to introduce myself.
He's just making a weird pun. I appreciate puns, but I don't know if like Lippy, if it sounds like maybe English isn't your first language.
No, it's not.
Um,
I'm German.
so uh, I don't know. I have no experience learning a foreign language. Okay, so I'm pretty ignorant about this. I'm sure there are
It's
many
hard.
people who would understand this experience better. But like, how familiar do you have to be with a language before you start to get puns like that?
Mm, I don't actually know.
So I'll
This
explain
actually
it.
That's
If
the
you
reason
were
why I
going
came up
to,
here. Okay, well, yeah, I'll let you
if
continue to speak.
if I was going to be like sarcastic with you or kind of mouth off to you, you might say I was being lippy, and so I was making a joke saying, "Don't." Okay, if you have to explain the joke,
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it
I understood the joke.
okay, good.
was very silly.
Sometimes sometimes my English is good, sometimes it's really crap.
It sounds fine.
For real?
I just didn't want to assume,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's
it's a
actually why
good
I came
joke
up
though.
here. I want to try my English. Um,
Oh, well, I
yeah.
hope I didn't, I hope I'm not cutting it
Uh,
short then. Sorry.
Lippy, are you a flat earther? Do you think the Earth is flat?
No,
No.
absolutely
Okay.
not.
Okay.
I
Cool.
was
Just
actually,
checking.
yeah, Peter,
Yeah.
what's your opinion on um, doing anti-flat Earth videos with a mask on, um, but with AI, like this original content version, just like you did. I know you did. Let me find the right words. You had like kind-hearted, these kind-hearted videos, and I wanted to do the exact same.
Oh, thank
But
you.
with the AI, yeah, that's actually why I followed you. I think I was one of the first 300 followers you had.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you're saying that you might want to make similar content, but like,
Yeah,
hide your face and use AI instead?
yeah, I don't even know about AI, because like I want to reach an international audience, but just like you pointed out, my English isn't the best, or you can really
Oh,
hear my
I'm sorry. I
accent.
didn't mean to make you self-conscious. Your
No,
English
no,
seems
it's
fine
okay.
so far. The only reason I kind of thought that maybe it wasn't your first language was just because I could hear you were hesitant to speak and you spoke with a slight accent. That's all. That's the only reason. Your English is fine so far.
Oh, okay.
You're doing great. Um,
Thank you. Um,
and like I said, I have no experience learning a foreign language, so 100% respect. Just
Big time.
I
I've been trying to learn Spanish and Italian for 20 years, and I still can't have a conversation. I'm terrible at it. So I have the highest respect for anybody that can learn a language.
yeah.
but English is like it's down there. It's one of the easiest languages you can learn, in my opinion.
Really? You're
Yeah,
kidding. Okay.
because like my native language is like I'm speaking German native, and I think you guys know that it's one of the hardest. Oh my God, the most hardest languages. Like it's up there.
I had a
And
boxer that was trained
okay,
in German once, so I could say Sitz, Achtung. I only knew dog commands. That was as far as.
I know, like, please and thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Auf
Or
Wiedersehen. I know
whatever.
that.
so I think it's kind of easier for me to learn languages that are from like the vocabulary is easier. Um,
Hmm.
but I really struggle with pronunciation. I think you
Oh,
just know
yeah.
this. Yeah, I can't really
Yeah.
pronounce vocabulary.
You're doing
Yeah.
really well, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you are. English phonics are kind of messed up.
Mm,
There
Yeah.
have been people saying we need a spelling reform, and the I was always kind of like, well, yeah, but the history, and then like I found out that like Irish Gaelic, for example, I think has had like three spelling reforms,
yeah, we had
and I
one
was like,
40 years ago.
whoa. The idea that a language has been around long enough that they've had three spelling reforms just blows my mind. I'm like, okay, well, since we haven't had even one yet, maybe we're maybe we're overdue.
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah. And
But yeah, the English phonics are notoriously um, difficult, I guess. But one thing that comes to my mind, it was very interesting to hear you say that learning English was like easy for you, because I've heard a lot of people say that English is a very difficult language to learn, or at least I feel like I've heard that. Um,
mm,
and one reason that might come to my mind is just comparative language similarity.
yeah.
So if you take like all the Romance languages, right? The
Hmm.
languages derived from the Roman Empire where they spoke Latin.
Yeah.
You know, you've got French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, all of these Romance languages. Obviously, German is not a Romance language,
Mm,
but what English is a bridge between Romance and German languages, right? Because
mm.
English is derived from both. It's Germanic and Romance. So
With a
maybe that's
splash
what
of
you're
Nordic.
experiencing.
Yeah. I can't even comment on languages because I really don't know anything about them. But I was planning on learning Chinese, Russian, and Arabic.
Ooh.
Um, I started with Arabic a month ago, um, but um, I think the pronunciation in Arabic is easier for me because my brain needs like a flow of constant thinking. I think you can relate, Peter, because I don't think I have autism, but I've seen the
Hmm.
correlation between you, others, um, actual diagnosed autistics, and
Yeah.
I know that like they struggle with socializing, they struggle with this and that, and when they really like a topic, they like read into that topic, and that's actually what that's exactly what I did. Um, I have about wait, let me turn on my light. Um, like 40 books on um, economy.
Michael says, "Don't forget about your wife, Peter." Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we can turn off the live in like 5 minutes if you want. It's like
I'll
3
let you
a.m.
finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I bought like 40 books on economy and Austrian school and all that, and like other topics just do not reach me. Like I literally don't care about them. Like French, I need to learn French for school, and I, I cannot. There's just a barrier on my head which blocks me from learning French or just
Hmm.
having that interest. And that's I think that's how I learned English because
So it has to kind of captivate your attention.
yeah, mm, that's the same
I
with
think
English.
German conjugates a verb and the adjective similar to English too, where the other languages don't, right? Like where you put the adjective after the
Mm,
noun, like we do in English. Like the cat
yeah,
is black, but in Spanish you would say black is the cat.
yeah, and in
You know
German
what
you
I
would
mean?
say the cat is black.
Yes. So that's
Yeah.
similar, English to
Mm,
German. There's a similar way that they form sentences, making
Well,
those two languages more
um,
compatible.
that's like a adjective on the other side of a of copular verb. So I wonder if maybe part of what you're uh, talking about is also like if there's an adjective directly modifying a noun inside the noun phrase. Like, I saw a black cat. I think in Spanish it would be, you'd say, I saw a cat black.
Hmm.
Something like
And
that. Yeah,
Yeah, in German
or
it would be the
a,
exact
a
same.
cat black I saw, right? Everything is mixed around with the Latin-based languages.
of course, in
And then go to
Spanish,
Mandarin and
often you don't even
Cantonese and
say the
try it.
subject. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, but
um,
the American language or the American English got influenced by German, I think. In
yeah,
in the 1800s, they needed to decide on like a native language, and a lot of German people immigrated to the US, and I
some
think
of
they
which are
actually,
my ancestors, actually.
yeah,
Um,
and that's pretty common. Um, I think I have ancestors in America, or I have ties, connections with other people in America, and the English. Oh my God, what the fuck? The English language and the German language got kind of influenced by that. Just like
yeah.
you see with in the Hood, um, they got influenced by the, I think it's the Scottish rednecks. This language, the how they form language, how they form sentences, and like um, tough, or I can't even give an example. The way they structure. Wait. Um, the way they structure sentences, it's like the exact same, because the culture of the um, I'd say Afro Americans got kind of like taken away from them, or like completely eradicated,
Yeah,
and they kind of had to adapt. And the closest thing they had was like the rednecks, which are kind of similar after slavery was abolished. Um,
yeah,
the rednecks were like the closest thing to what was the state of an average Afro American, like 1900s. Yeah, there was much poverty under them. I don't even know how to say that. I think you're getting what I'm trying to say, right?
yeah, yeah. Conditions were kind of difficult for
Yeah,
them.
and that's how
Yeah,
they adapted. They chose the language which was similar to their living style, because the rednecks had like the same. Okay,
yeah.
I think I have. Okay, excuse me.
No, you're fine. I might make one observation in case it will help. Before I turn off my live, you said you were
Mm.
interested in learning Chinese. I took a year of Mandarin in college. Now, when I said I have no experience learning a foreign language, I meant like to like become fluent because I was just
Mm.
trying to make a grade in college. I didn't get anywhere near fluent. But in my experience, and I say this just in case it will help you, like in case your experience is similar, the most difficult thing I encountered learning Mandarin Chinese was lexical tones. And I believe every other Chinese
Yeah,
dialect
I
also
know.
has, yeah.
If
So
you
you already
say
know
like
about lexical
ma,
tones?
yeah, ma can mean mother, horse, and
Hmm.
some vegetable, I think.
Yeah,
If that's
tone's a
what you're
Yeah.
big
talking about,
deal.
the
Yeah, like to
how you
me,
say
in
it.
my Western brain, the idea of a lexical tone is like, what?
Mm.
I, I don't know if I could ever become fluent in Mandarin Chinese, but I could
Yeah,
at least understand the concept academically. And I was in awe. I was like, "Ah, what is this? How do I deal with this? So good luck. Good luck.
thank you.
You've already climbed one mountain with learning English, and I'm very impressed. So good luck with the rest.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, So
Well,
unfortunately, I
Peter, if
probably will
you,
have to
I have a
go.
final question before you're going off.
oh,
When will you be live again? Like, when's your next live?
You know, I don't have them scheduled. I tend to I guess go live more often on the weekends.
Mm,
So I don't know if I'll go live again until Saturday. We'll see. Maybe
okay.
um we'll get to the even I'll get to like log out from work one evening and think, well, maybe I will go live tonight, but
same way. I never know when I'm going to do it. I just do it on a whim.
I would stick to a schedule, to be honest, if TikTok had such a feature. But I
Mm,
don't think there's even a way that I can tell people I'm going to go live, except by going live.
mm.
I mean, unless I'm missing something.
No, I think you're
Yeah, I don't
correct.
know.
So it seems pretty geared toward like this sort of impromptu uh, style, I guess. So I'll
A
just
lot
go
of
with the
big
flow.
creators, yeah, a lot of the big creators, they get on a schedule where people know they're always live at this time, type of thing, I
Yeah,
think.
Mm,
yeah. Um, so
okay.
I'll probably be live again at least on the next weekend sometime, like Saturday
Okay.
evening or something.
Yeah. Because I wanted to join because I'm really active in like this anti-flat Earth scene in Germany because we have on TikTok we have a lot of flat earthers in Germany, even though our education is like it's free, it's good, um, it's convincing. um, so me and
What
my
went wrong?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty sad.
me and my buddies we
Yeah.
try to like combat that. Big old people they experience false information on the internet more than young people, or it affects them more because if you show old people like an AI generated photo, they will not think it's AI. The
Oh
kid will
yeah.
know it. If you show a 12-year-old like an obvious AI photo, they will of course know it's an AI photo. But like my grandma, she will not know it. But she didn't know it. I actually showed her a photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are far more susceptible to internet hoaxes like flat Earth and other conspiracies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're pretty big creator in Germany. Like in this scene, most of the people know you,
Who, me?
Peter. Yeah, um,
Really?
yeah,
You got
yeah.
a name for
There
yourself.
was a guy,
I only
Julian.
started like last month.
Yeah, you haven't been on here long, huh?
Yeah, but like
I mean,
I
I
think
had a video on YouTube since 2019, but I don't, I assume that that's not why, is it?
no,
I
no.
mean,
Um,
so in 1 month's time, a lot of them has started to learn my name. Wow.
yeah,
How
um,
about that?
yeah, but Flat Earth creator. I think it's Bob. He only has like 15K viewers, followers. Right?
Bob Science Guy.
Yeah, Bob the Science Guy.
He's got a big following on YouTube. He's been on YouTube a long time.
Yeah, okay, okay, then that's the
Last I
reason.
checked, Bob actually has 18,000 here on TikTok and 25,000 on YouTube. So
For
he's,
real? Oh, okay.
That's all
yeah,
he's got on YouTube. I've followed him a long time over there.
at least on the channel that I was looking at. He's got
Okay.
several channels, but
Yeah. But there's a bigger potential. Like the way he edits his videos is like you can get more out of that. They're like too long.
yeah,
The information could be packed in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
packages, just like
he does a
Einstein
good
did.
job of deconstructing these, but yeah, sometimes it's long-winded.
Mm,
All right. Well, I should probably go, guys. Thank you so much for
yeah.
joining. I
Yeah, it was really
appreciate
nice
it.
meeting you, Peter.
You too.
You know what you should do? You should really follow me back. Peter, you should
Did you
really
say
follow
follow
me
you
back.
back?
Yeah, for
Yes,
real.
I will. You
Thank you.
are a cool person. I will follow you.
I will come up here again. I
All right.
I
Well,
really
I
hope I
look
have the
forward to
time.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're always
You can
welcome
go
up
off
if you
now.
see me live as well. Do this. I do kind of similar, but sometimes I do satire, where we're like
Yeah.
selling beachfront property beyond the ice wall or something, say.
Yeah, I'm live sometimes as well.
We had some pretty good luck with that.
Yeah, me not. Not me. Couldn't be me. Yeah, okay.
All
It's
right.
getting
Well,
late.
thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Have a good
Yeah.
We'll
evening.
see you around. Take it
Okay,
easy,
see you
everyone.
around. God bless.
God bless.